Chapter 31 He is always reluctant to refuse his sugar. Ji Henyun hugged Tang Tang into his arms and protected him fiercely, staring at Ji Mingpen with cold and fierce eyes. That look is like looking at a dead man. The sound of the outlet is mixed with a strong cold momentum. If my girlfriend is going to be defined as an outsider, then I don't mind taking back everything I have given to you over the years. Ji Henyun's words suddenly made everyone look over, and their faces trembled. The atmosphere also fell into a stalemate. If Ji Henyun really wants to fight, so how much turmoil should the Ji family usher in? I'm afraid that the whole capital will be bloody. After a brief stalemate, Ji Mingxiu, the boss of the Ji family, slowly said to Ji Henyun with a look of compassion in his hand, Lao Si, brotherhood, peace is precious. It's rare for you to come back, so don't lose your temper with brothers. Lao San's mouth is ugly, but you are tolerant. Yes, Lao Si, Ji Mingdian, the second son of the Ji family, also said, look, today's family banquet, our wives and children are all next door, which has always been the rule of our Ji family. Even if this lady is your new girlfriend, it is reasonable for her to wait next door. When the old lady finishes talking to us, shall we have dinner together? Next door. Tang Tang's eyebrows suddenly jumped. Then can she borrow the name of the next door, so that she can leave her particularly clingy brother for a while, and then come next with the purple-haired girl? Anyway, she doesn't know the women of the Ji family, and there is no need to deal with them. Tang Tang suddenly felt that it was feasible, and then pulled the sleeve of Ji Henyun. Brother Yuan, I'll wait next door first. Ji Henyun frowned and hugged Tang Tang tightly. Don't mind these broken rules. You are my woman. You can be wherever you want. Who dares to drive you away? The rules of the Ji family are nothing. He just doesn't want his sugar to leave him for age off a step. What's more, this is the Ji family. In case the Ji family has no good intentions and cares about Tang Tang, and he is not by her side, as if she had seen the concern of Ji Henyun, Mrs. Ji suddenly said, Hong Yuan, don't be reluctant to let people go. Today, I also specially invited the wife and young lady of the Han family. They are the mother and sister of your little girlfriend. With them here, are you afraid that my family dares to bully your little girlfriend? Suddenly, Tang Tang's eyelids jumped, and he subconsciously looked at the old lady Ji on the main seat. She was dressed in a dark purple cheongsam skirt, a red agate necklace around her neck, an emerald bracelet in her hand, and was graceful and noble. More than 60 years have not only left traces on her face, but also left her with the dignity and depth that seemed to be able to see through everything. At a glance, Tang Tang felt that this old lady was not simple. What's more, I knew in advance that Ji Henyun would bring her here, so I invited Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingdian in advance. Obviously, what happened at Tang Yingdian's engagement banquet was well known to everyone. Mrs. Ji, what on earth is the intention? However, the more Mrs. Ji looked like this, the more curious Tang Tang became. Even if there is a pit in front of her, what's wrong with jumping? Maybe she can get out of the pit, dig a bigger hole for them, and push them all out. She doesn't intend to be polite to these Ji family members who are obviously unkind to his brother. When she took over with the purple-haired girl, the purple-haired girl called her boss. Maybe she can also have a wave of silence first. Suddenly, Tang Tang couldn't wait. Brother Yuan, I'm going. Tang Tang pulled Ji Henyun's hand, and his eyes were full of firmness. Ji Henyun looked at the stubborn Tang Tang and could only give up. Who made him always love her more? She was reluctant and didn't want to, which made her feel lost and disappointed. If you think about it carefully, it's okay. There are also his people in this old house, and his Tang Tang's skills. It's not something they can afford to provoke casually. Moreover, if you think about it carefully, the Ji family doesn't have the courage to come down and dare to make trouble in front of him. As a result, Ji Henyun let people go, and Tang Tang finally had a chance to leave her clingy brother for a short time. Went to the next door. Originally, I planned to just show my face, but I went out to meet the purple-haired girl quietly in the name of going to the toilet. I didn't think about it. When I went in, I saw Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingdian, surrounded by the silent family and the stars holding the moon. The two of them were held up and loved in the spring breeze. They were so proud. Oh, Gao Gao, here you are. Zhao Zufen took the lead in noticing Tang Yao, quickly stood up to greet him, and walked towards Tang Tang, smiling gently and kindly. Cao is here. We were still talking about you just now. Zhao Zufen stretched out her hand as if she was familiar and tried to hold Tang Tang's hand to pretend to be hot, but was directly dodged by Tang Tang. Tang Yingdian covered her emotions and came over with a smile. Sister, let's guess that the fourth master will definitely bring you here today. As expected, the sisters-in-law and sisters of the T family are looking forward to seeing you in person. Others immediately answered, sure, now, it's better to be famous than to meet. It's really bright and beautiful, and it looks like a fairy. A man covered his mouth and said with a sneer, that's why our family can break the precepts and return to vulgarity, just like the old man who has passed away. However, in a burst of flattery, an out-to-go voice suddenly appeared. Oh, what if you are beautiful? Can you do whatever you want if you are beautiful? Everyone looked at the person who said this. It's Jo Ruksu. She sat next to Jo Ruli with an angry face. On the contrary, Jo Ruli was expressionless. Jo Ruksu is usually like this. She has already come out to play the round, but now it is obviously a mess. It seems that I don't want to stay at this house at all. Even this family is not willing to attend the banquet and doesn't want to say a word more. However, Jo Ruli doesn't care, which does not mean that others don't care. The eldest lady frowned directly and looked at Jo Ruksu. Zuir, what are you talking about? It's our first time to come here. It's our guest. We should treat you well. Hurry up and apologize to Gao Gao. I apologize. Jo Ruksu looked at the first lady incredulously and said inexplicably, let me apologize to such a person. Is there a mistake? Isn't her reputation in the capital loud enough these days? What did she do? Do you need me to tell you word by word? Jo Ruksu rolled her eyes and said speechlessly, don't think I will believe that you don't know. About Tang Yingying's engagement banquet. What are you pretending to do here? Jo Ruksu directly satirized everyone present with a pretend word. It is satire that Tang Yingying deliberately pretended to have a deep sisterhood with Tang Yao. Ironically, the Ji family knew that Tang Geojiu was not a good thing, but they still pretended to be so enthusiastic. Isn't it just a freak of the cold abyss? However, she is Tang Jiao. What is worthy of her fourth brother? A woman who seduced her broth. Our in-law's water-based poplar flower also tricked her into bringing her fourth brother to the quiet family. I really don't know what kind of charm she learned to seduce the fourth brother to be so irrational. Although her sister is married with Ji Senai is now shaky, Ji Henyuan can't help it. However, Jo Ruksu thought very thoroughly. If it hadn't been for Ji Mingpen who couldn't control himself, fooled around outside and betrayed her sister, would he be caught by Ji Henyuan? Therefore, Jo Ruksu still firmly believes that Ji Henyuan is the only man worthy of her in the world. So for Tang Yao, she doesn't like it. This kind of woman is not worthy of her fourth brother at all. Chapter 32 Tang Tang is domineering and abusing people. Jo Ruksu said something, and everyone at the scene looked at each other. Jo Ruksu was spoiled by the Jo family, and she was spoiled as she wanted. At this time, there is no control of Jo Ruli. It is really lawless. Everyone dares to fight and say anything. In a word, it simply offended everyone present. Of course, they have heard about the rumors of Tang Gao, but can such words be said in the open? What's more, Mrs. Ji told her early in the morning to treat the Tang family well. Moreover, Tang Yuejiu is still the favorite of Ji Henyuan. How dare they offend them on the surface? Even if they know in their hearts, their whole family does not deal with Ji Henyuan, and they are on the opposite side of Ji Henyuan's woman. At the same time, as celebrities and noble women from rich families in the capital, they are also the wives of the silent family. Naturally, they don't like Tang Yao's way of seducing his brother-in-law and beating his sister. However, after so many years of groping and rolling in the fame and fortune market, they have long learned to talk to people and talk nonsense when they meet people. What's more, the Tang family doesn't mind internally. What are they coming to expose? Everyone is good. Maintain this superficial harmony, so that it can cross with Mrs. Ji. Okay. However, the good atmosphere created was torn apart by Jo Ruksu's words. For a while, no one wanted to come out to talk and play this round field. At this time, Tang Yingying suddenly broke her calm. Miss Zhou, I think you misunderstood. What happened at the engagement banquet that day has been clarified, and it has nothing to do with my sister. Tang Yingying lowered her eyes and twisted her hands, looking pitiful and aggrieved. I lost sight of it. I didn't know that Jiang Muse was simply a scumbag with a personal face and a beast heart. She promised me to marry me on the surface and coax me, but on the day of the engagement banquet, when she saw my sister dressed up beautifully, she was moved and tried to do it to my sister. Fortunately, my sister was flexible, saved herself. Otherwise, if something happened to her that day, how can I explain to the fourth master? Tang Yingying pretended to be aggrieved and pitiful, but she was sneering in her heart. The Jiang family offended Ji Henyun. Now it's not easy to get along at all. The stock price has fallen again and again. 2 days ago, I heard that Jiang Muse was arrested in the act of PC and XD, and now he will be sent to a drug rehabilitation center after being detained. Why does such a man with a ruined future come here to do? Is this kind of Jiang family, who has completely lost the future, still worthy of her Tang Yunbing? Now, even the Ji family is serving them as guests. She is Tang Yunbing. What kind of man can't be picked? What's more, even Tang Gaojiu can find a man like Ji Henyun. Why is Tang Yunbing worse than her? 问号. At least, it has to be a lonely family. It just so happens, Zhou Ruli and Ji Mingpeng are getting divorced. Isn't this giving her Tang Yunbing's place? At that time, as long as she gets married, Tang Yunbing will be Tang Yao's sister-in-law. Still pressing Tang Yao's head fiercely, Tang Yunbing made a pie, which made Zhou Ruxu directly yue. She directly rolled her eyes at Tang Yunbing. It seems that you, Tang Yunbing, are the one who is the best at pretending. You can simply change your name to Tang Yunbing. Sisters are not at peace. Why pretend to be a deep sisterhood? You feel so sorry for your sister. Why didn't you stand up to protect her at the engagement banquet that day? Zhou Ruxu sneered coldly again and complained. What kind of big-tailed wolf is left in our silent house now? You, 感叹号. Suddenly, Tang Yunbing's face turned white. Zhao Zufen grabbed Tang Yunbing's hand, glanced at Zhou Ruxu, and then said, how about our Tang sisters? Don't bother Miss to stay. It's Miss Zhou. Since you have a deep sisterhood, you'd better care more about your own sister. Zhao Zufen spoke, obviously with a gun and a stick with sand. Isn't it implying that Zhou Ruli and Ji Mingpeng are going to divorce? Satirically, Aaron, kill the Ji family at all in the future. No matter how straightforward Zhou Ruxu is, she can also hear it. Suddenly, she patted the table directly and stood up. Who are you from the Tang family? This small family is uneducated. The old man speaks yin and yang strangely. The little one seduced his brother-in-law. There is also a special one who can pretend. Only people like you still have the face to step into the door of our silent house. Zhao Zufen didn't expect that Zhou Ruxu was so dark. After many years of wandering in the fame and fortune market, which of these people in the upper class society is not particularly good on the surface, but it secretly spoils it for you? Zhou Ruxu is really the first person to say anything that dares to come out of her mouth. However, the 2 words she just stood up and said that provoked Zhou Ruxu were also angry when she heard Zhou Ruxu saying Yunbing. However, I regretted it as soon as I opened my mouth. She shouldn't have talked slick. It is when she first entered the silent family. Baby asked Ji family to guard against her. Before Yunbing married into the Ji family, she should be careful and be more patient. However, she can endure it, and she can also pull Tang Yunbing to endure it together. Ten can't stand it anymore. She came to Ji's house, but she didn't come to block herself. What's more, this Zhou Ruxu obviously coveted her brother Yuan, and was full of sarcasm to her. Do you really think she is a madman, who can't be needed by her? Ten stepped forward and walked directly to Zhou Ruxu, looking at her with a straight spine. She was taller than Zhou Ruxu, and her momentum was even taller than Zhou Ruxu's. She looked at Zhou Ruxu with such sharp eyes, which made Zhou Ruxu couldn't help but feel a chill. You, what are you going to do? Zhou Ruxu's lips trembled twice. She subconsciously thought of the slap in the hospital and couldn't help retreating. However, Ten grabbed her collar and looked at her coldly, very domineering. First, you can scold Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing. I don't care, but if you scold them, don't take me with you. Second, say I seduced that scumbag. What about the evidence? You are full of nonsense. Is this the family customs and style of your Zhou family? Or you can't eat all the melons? I don't know if the fourth master has already said anything. Who dares to say this everywhere without evidence? The end refers to Jiang Mu's mother and son. So, Miss Zhou Ruxu, do you choose to be kicked away or dozens of slaps? Finally, Ten sneered, shook off the hand holding Zhou Ruxu's collar fiercely, and looked at her contemptuously. If you think I'm easy to mess with, feel free to come. Suddenly, everyone fell silent, and even dared not say a mouthful. I even feel nervous. I feel chills in my back. No one thought that Ji Henyuan's little girlfriend, who looked so delicate and weak, was so violent. This domineering appearance is like a copy of the Ji Henyuan. It makes people afraid for no reason. If Zhou Ruxu loses her temper, She is purely domineering and arrogant, which makes people despise. And the angry appearance of Tang Yao's anger will make people feel the queen is coming. The ministers kneel down. At this time, Zhou Ruxu was too scared to speak, but Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing's faces were even more ugly, because the first sentence of Tan Tan is, no matter how they scold Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing, she doesn't care. Both the mother and daughter know that the Ji family treats the mother and daughter so generously for the sake of Tang Yuejiu's face. If Tang Yuejiu has always been so disliked to see them, she will let the Ji family know that they have a bad relationship. So, will the Ji family still attach so much importance to them? Suddenly, Zhao Zufen had a lot of thoughts in her mind. No, she must come up with a perfect plan. She must marry Yunbing. Chapter 33 Cooling the Ears of Tan Tan. Tan Tan left the smoky place directly and went into the yard alone. At the same time, I deeply agree with a point of view in my mind. Where there are many women, it is trouble. Tan Tan subconsciously walked to an empty pavilion in the yard, and then took out her mobile phone. Only then did she remember that the video call from the purple-haired girl that day did not show the number at all, so she didn't know how to call her back at this time. Is it difficult to wait like this? However, if she came out for a long time, her brother couldn't find her, and she should be worried and anxious later. Thinking of the last time, she left the bright moon villa alone inexplicably, and later her brother's reaction, and what she did to her lips. The teeth are close to each other. Suddenly, Tan Tan blushed and his heart beat. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed behind her, patted her on the shoulder, and suddenly scared her. Sitchin is here. Tan Tan was so scared that he trembled coldly. He subconsciously grabbed the hand on his shoulder and was about to fall over his shoulder. Boss, me, your favorite Diao Diao. Hearing this familiar voice and seeing that it was a purple-haired girl, Tan Tan breathed a sigh of relief and let go of the hand holding her tightly. Diao Diao looked at his red arm aggrievedly, curled his lips and said, the boss has a dog, and he doesn't love Diao Diao. Suddenly, a tall figure jumped down from the tree and added, I don't love baboons either. Tan Tan was so scared that he trembled again and looked at them speechlessly. Why do these two people love each other so much? Diao Diao continued to curl her lips and said, it's been a long time since I left that dog man, and I miss him again, and my face is about to blush. It seems that the boss has completely forgotten the slogan of our alliance. Tan Tan, what's the slogan? Diao Diao was dumbfounded. If you have money, you don't make money. Boss, you won't really lose your memory, will you? You don't even remember your most enthusiastic money-making plan. Diao Diao directly grabbed Tan Tan's head and looked through it in various ways, grabbing her good hair like a chicken cost. Tan Tan slapped her hand speechlessly, and then said, you guessed right. I did lose my memory, so I don't know you now. That is to say, you'd better come up with something now so that I can trust you. Otherwise, I don't even believe you. Anyway, now, she only trusts her brother Yuan. She saved her life and took good care of her brother Yuan wholeheartedly. Diao Diao and the baboon suddenly looked at each other and were dumbfounded. I just said something. What did this damn silent fourth master do to our boss? Diao Diao was so angry that my boss didn't even know me. She obviously loves me the most. Damn silent fourth master. Return my boss. A tall and strong baboon flattened his mouth helplessly. The boss didn't remember the baboon, and the baboon sang. Tan Tan frowned and stared at Diao, trying to restrain his fist that wanted to hit people, and warned, I don't allow you to say that. My brother Yuan, her brother Yuan is the best man in the world. She doesn't allow anyone to slander her. Seeing the deterrent eyes of his boss, Diao Diao suddenly stopped talking and collapsed. She was sure again that the boss really didn't pretend. He really lost his memory. Otherwise, as usual, if he makes the boss unhappy, the boss will directly hammer her by hand. How can she use such a deterrent look to warn away first? Diao Diao wanted to cry without tears. He hesitated to take out a small porcelain bottle and stuffed it into Tan Tan's hand. Boss, this medicine is my opinion. It is said that no matter what disease it is, it can be cured, and there is only one in the whole world. If it's really what I did to you that made you lose your memory, you should take the next one, and it should be fine. Diao Diao sucked his nose and said aggrievedly, however, when you recover your memory, remember to take something out of your treasure pavilion and compensate me. God knows how painful it will be when she takes out this pill, although she also snatched it on the road. But this is a priceless treasure that she regards as an heirloom. Tan Tan took the porcelain bottle given to her by Diao Diao and was stunned for a moment. Can this medicine make her recover her memory immediately? Is Diao Diao so powerful? Can this medicine help her brother? Just as Tan Tan wanted to continue to ask Diao Diao, Suddenly, the baboon, who had been on guard, exclaimed in a low voice, Diao Diao, someone is coming. It's time for us to go. Diao Diao immediately said to Tang Tang in a hurry, Boss, take the medicine quickly after leaving the Ji family. Our alliance is still waiting for you to take us to make money. As for the cold-faced SH, Yura, why don't you continue to pretend to have amnesia, taking advantage of the silent fourth master? Anyway, he has taken so much advantage of you and ate so much of your tofu. Maybe he will put you to sleep. It's not too much for us to rely on him to take 1 billion. Let's go. The words were not finished, and they were directly dragged by the baboon. The two climbed the tree and climbed over the wall, and suddenly disappeared without a trace. Tang Tang looked at the porcelain bottle in his hand and looked up at the tree. Who did these two people learn the skill of climbing trees from? For no reason, Tang Tang felt that he did not reject the two people, Diao Diao and Baboon, even if what they have done seems a little strange, out of the case, but she even feels that they are inexplicably close to them. Obviously, it happened when she lost her memory and couldn't remember anything. On the other hand, the first time she saw Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying, it was instinctive rejected and disgust. However, why did these two people run so fast? She didn't have time to ask her about the past. What's more, she doesn't know how to contact them in the future. Just when Tang Tang was considering whether to climb a tree and climb over the wall to catch up, sugar. Suddenly, hearing the voice of Ji Henyuan, Tang Tang suddenly came to his senses and looked back. As soon as Ji Henyuan saw her, his deep eyes suddenly shone brightly, and his pace accelerated and came towards her. Brother Yuan, Tang Tang also immediately ran to Ji Henyuan and rushed directly into his arms. Holding the soft and fragrant little fudge in his arms again, Ji Henyuan realized that the big stone in his heart had fallen. He unhappily licked the clever ears of the little fudge and said in a muffled voice, Why are you running around again? I'm not obedient at all. Don't these ears look good when they grow? Tang Tang, do you know how scared I am when I can't find you? I'm afraid that the family will harm you. I'm more afraid that you are taking the opportunity to leave me. Tang Tang's heart is guilty. Lai didn't dare to come out to see him in Ji Henyuan's arms. He just rubbed his chest obediently and said coquettishly, Oh, Tang Tang's ears just need to look good. Ji Henyuan is simply smiling. Is this girl quite proud? However, what she said was also true. His little sugar, every part of his body is very beautiful. Even if this ear is not very obedient, the left ear enters and the right ear comes out. But it is born white and transparent, and the earlobe is soft and glutinous. When you pinch it, it feels great. Ji Henyuan couldn't help pinching a few more times, and his deep eyes moved, suddenly leaning over. I couldn't help kissing again and again. Just think of it as the punishment for this disobedient little fudge. Finally, he bit Tang Tang's earlobe fiercely and threatened in a low voice. Little thing, if you run around disobediently, it will be more than just pulling your ears next time. Sugar. It's not simple. What's the wrong way? Chapter 34 Tang Tang's domineering husband. When Ji Henyuan brought Tang Tang back, the family banquet had already begun. As the head of the first-class family in the capital, the Ji family is naturally luxurious and extravagant. It's just a family banquet once a month, which is actually held like a court banquet. Mrs. Ji likes to listen to opera, and the family banquet is also set up under the stage. Delicious food, opera and music. There are also a group of children and grandchildren in front of them. The life of this silent old lady is really like the Empress Dowager. However, there is something slightly different today. That is, usually the boss Ji Mingpeng and the second Ji Mingxiu sit on both sides of Mrs. Ji. Today, the second side actually gave way to the newcomers, Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying. At this time, Mrs. Ji held Tang Yingying's hand intimately and smiled kindly. Why, Yingying, I felt kind at first sight. I have had 3 sons in my life, but I have no daughter. How nice it would be if I also had a beautiful and sensible daughter like Yingying. Tang Yingying lowered her eyes shyly. Old lady, you are too much. Compared with the ladies and ladies of the Ji family, Yingying is still far behind. Look at this well-behaved little appearance. Mrs. Ji joked about Tang Yingying, and the first lady and the second lady praised and cheered. Suddenly, Tang Yingying felt that she had floated to the sky. She and her mother's decisive decision to abandon the Jiang family is indeed right. Now it seems that how can the Jiang family be worthy of her? Now even Mrs. Ji holds her in her hand. Next, isn't it up to her to choose all the men in the capital? When Tang Tang saw this scene, he instinctively felt uncomfortable. He sat next to Ji Henyuan, picked up the watermelon next to him and began to eat. He just wanted to suppress the nausea quickly. Haha, Lao Si, what kind of girlfriend did you choose? You don't even understand these rules. Ji Mingpeng sneered a few times and said sarcastically, before the old lady spoke and moved her chopsticks. She ate first. Is it possible that she is the head of the family? Suddenly, The watermelon that Tang Tang bit in his mouth stiffened. What the hell? Don't you eat the food and fruits in front of you? And you have to wait for the old demon woman to say something before you can eat. Is this still alive in the feudal dynasty? Won't the daughter-in-law who married into the Qi family, and have to stand beside her as a maid to serve her, and wait for her to eat before serving? Do you really regard yourself as an empress dowager? What's more, she is used to doing whatever she wants in Gaoyou Villa and has always wanted to do whatever she wants. What? The fruit and food are all on the table, and they have been pretending to be disgusting there. What's wrong with her eating a wet watermelon and pressing it? Tang Tang was speechless and wanted to fight back. When the words reached his throat, he heard the unhappy voice around him ring first. She can do whatever she wants. You can eat whatever you want. Why? Are you unhappy, Master Ji-san? Ji Henyuan sneered coldly and directly raised his hand to throw the things on the table towards Ji Mingpeng. If you are hungry and dare not move your chopsticks, I don't mind letting you chew the leftover watermelon. Ji Henyuan smashed extremely accurately, and the watermelon peel hit Ji Mingpeng's lips steadily and accurately. It's still the opposite of Tang Tang's not chewing. Suddenly, Ji Mingpeng's thick lips swelled up visibly. The watermelon peel fell to the ground with a snap. The sudden change stunned everyone. However, the cold abyss seems to be not over yet. He picked up his chopsticks and began to pick up the dishes for Tang Tang. Directly built a small hill in front of her. He even fed it to her mouth in person. Come on, good boy, open your mouth. Tang Tang opened her mouth instinctively and ate the beef brisket fed by Ji Henyuan. Silent cold abyss rubbed Tang Tang's Xiang's head with satisfaction and said extremely spoiled. Eat when you are hungry, do whatever you want. As long as I'm here, you don't have to care about anyone. What are the rules of the Qi family? His silence and cold abyss is the rule, and the woman in his lonely abyss should live freely. Everyone, even the old lady who has always been the best at pretending. At this moment, the elegant and noble facial expression cracked. In the past 10 years in the Qi family, she has always been the head of the family. Everyone respects and supports her. She planned to hold the Qi family tightly in her hand. When did someone trample on her like this? At the family banquet, she hadn't moved her chopsticks yet, but she ate and fed them directly. How can she gain a foothold when this is spread out? Where is her face? The Qi family naturally saw the change in Mrs. Qi's face and stood up one after another. Ji Mingxiu, the boss of the Qi family, reminded unpleasingly, Lao Si, this is the family rule. Those who violate the family rules will be punished. The second Ji Mingyan added, offending the old lady is against the second family rule. It is against the third family rule to take action between brothers. The crime accumulates, and you need to kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days and 3 nights to copy the Buddhist scriptures. Ji Mingpeng covered his painful and swollen mouth and said vaguely, if you disturb the family banquet, you will be punished, can be whipped. The words of the 3 men of the Qi family made Tang Tang dumbfounded. Which feudal family was this hundreds of years ago? Do you still have such disgusting family rules? Do you still want to kneel in the ancestral hall, copy the Buddhist scriptures? Weeping, offending the old lady is also called a family rule. Suddenly, Tang Tang was so sick that he thought, LDNs eat anything, and he even wanted to spit out everything he had just eaten. She is disgusted with the food of the old house of the Qi family. With a snap, she lifted the table directly. Who dares to touch my brother? Believe it or not, I broke his leg today. She was cold and angry, and her cold eyes swept over everyone present, especially the old demon woman and the 3 people surnamed Ji. A disgusting thing with no good intentions. How dare you touch her brother? Let's talk about it when we can beat her. Suddenly, the bodyguards in black of the Qi family emerged from all around and directly surrounded the scene. Tang Yunbing had never seen this posture, and suddenly grabbed Zhao Zufen's hand tightly. Zhao Zufen thought 1,000 times and looked at Tang Yao with hatred. This stupid bitch. Why is his brain so unclear? It's hard to enter the gate of the Qi family, so you should serve Mrs. Qi diligently, cherish this heart, one opportunity, and strive to put the noble surname of Qi in your name as soon as possible. But what about her? He caused trouble everywhere, but he dared to lift the table. You really think you are lawless? If Yunbing, who affects her, marries into the Qi family, she wants her to look good. I'm so sorry, old lady. Zhao Zufen quickly apologized and said, my family is ignorant. It's because I didn't teach her well. I'm willing to suffer on her behalf. But please don't be angry with the old lady. I can also be punished for my sister. Tang Yunbing also quickly stammered and followed. R8. The old lady patted the armrest, lowered her eyes and said, what's the matter, boss? Let the bodyguards go down. A good family banquet. Why did they run out? Under the order of Mrs. Qi, Ji Mingxiu only raised his hand, and the bodyguards left one after another. Then, Mrs. Qi suddenly looked at Ji Mingpeng and said in a deep and quiet tone, Lao San, You said you too. Gao Gao is hungry and wants to eat a watermelon first. What's wrong? The little girl is young, and she is greedy for fun and eating. It doesn't matter. Hurry up and apologize to Gao Gao, otherwise, it's you who will be punished today. Ji Mingpeng was stunned. What's the situation? Mom actually asked him to admit his mistake. Did Mom forget that when he was a child, he was so hungry that he moved his chopsticks before she spoke? But he was punished to kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days and 3 nights. He still wanted to struggle to defend himself, but he saw his eldest brother and second brother all cast warning eyes on him. Ji Mingpeng suddenly didn't dare. After holding it for several seconds, he reluctantly looked at Tang Tang and said in a mosquito-like voice, "Yes, I'm sorry, Gao Gao." Mrs. Ji looked at Tang Tang kindly with a smile on her face. "You see, Lao San has apologized to you, and you have a lot of adults. Forgive him this time. Let's sit down and have a good meal together." Okay, it's rare for Mrs. Ji to talk to a junior like this. As usual, no matter who you are, you should have been flattered and grateful to her. However, Tang Tang is not an ordinary person. She glanced at the old lady coldly and said speechlessly, "Do I have to accept his apology? Also, is it me who he should apologize for? I warn you, Ji family, if you dare to tell my brother what to do and even try to hurt him, next time I will not lift this table." But your whole Ji family, Diao Diao can get such a magical medicine. She asked Diao Diao to make an explosive and directly blew up the Ji family. Isn't it too much? After the harsh words, Tang Tang took Ji Henyuan's hand and left directly. This disgusting place, if she hadn't come to blow it up, she would never come again. Chapter 35 Strong Love Pours the Release. As soon as he got on the car, Ji Henyuan couldn't help it. He directly pressed the little fudge in his arms, leaned over and kissed him. Today, he was sure again. His sugar, I love him very much. She actually protected him so domineeringly in front of so many people. When he first entered the Ji family, he stood in front of him and angrily scolded Ji Mingpeng. And just now, he actually lifted the table directly and resisted the whole silent family alone. He even said, if their Ji family dares to hurt him again, she will lift up their whole Ji family. At that moment, looking at his domineering sugar, Ji Henyuan only felt that even his heartbeat had missed half a beat. The feeling of someone protecting and someone loving is so warming the heart. Especially, this person is still the sugar he misses day and night, the bright moon hidden in his eyes and the honey in his heart. At this moment, Ji Henyuan only felt that he was going crazy. I'm crazy and want to ask. Take her sweetness. I even want to, fiercely, domineering, occupy her. He wants to tell her that he loves her more and more with his own actions. For her more, I can't help myself. At the same time, Zhao Gang, who was in the driver's seat, quickly raised the baffle consciously. If you don't look at it, it's not suitable for children. Single dogs, it's not appropriate. Tang Tang was shocked for a moment by Ji Henyuan's sudden behavior. Then, I fell into his deep love again. She only knows that she loves her brother very much. She won't let anyone who wants to hurt her brother. So she didn't regret it at all when she got angry and made a fuss today and offended the person who took a cigarette. It's even a pity that I couldn't give them a few more punches. The same, as long as it's what my brother wants. She is willing to give it to her brother. Tang Tang responded deeply. It seemed that they were going to pour their strong love into this long kiss. Ji Henyuan and Tang Tang left like this, but the Ji family was in a mess. Today, I'm afraid that it's the first time that Mrs. Ji has lived for more than 60 years that someone dares to touch her face like this. It's still one and Annette. Her, of course. The family banquet can't be held. Zhao Zufen and Tang Yundying apologized for a long time, and left tremblingly with many gifts from the Ji family. The female family members also left consciously. The boss Ji Mingxiu helped Mrs. Ji and went back to Mrs. Ji's room. As soon as he entered the room, Ji Mingpeng couldn't help but explode directly. Mom, what does that dog in Ji Henyuan mean today? As soon as he returned to China, he kept moving. Can't wait to discuss us. Do you even W? And to come back and rob our lonely family is things? Mrs. Ji's face was calm and said coldly, I invited him here today just to test him. Unexpectedly, he was really ambitious. On the surface, he left the Ji family, as if he didn't disdain everything in the Ji family. This is not. As soon as he returned to China, he couldn't wait to come back and indulged his women to make a fuss about their lonely family. He even threatened them, and the silent family also had his share. Oh, Ji Mingyan sneered. For so many years, it was my mother who took our 3 brothers to develop the Ji family into such a grand event. He was so lonely that he thought that he would be empty as soon as he came back. Hearing the words, Ji Mingpeng immediately said excitedly, No, I will never allow him to take away what belongs to us. This evil obstacle, damn it outside. Mrs. Ji glanced at Ji Mingpeng, and you knew how to shout. So you said away. Ji Mingpeng immediately said with murderous intent. Directly paid to hire a top killer to kill him. One will be in trouble forever. Mrs. Ji stared at Ji Mingpeng with hatred. Didn't you make such a big fuss before that you sent a bunch of people to surround his villa? What about the result? If his life in the cold abyss is so easy to take, his ashes should be molded. Ji Mingpeng was scolded and suddenly choked. He touched his lips that were still hurting and didn't dare to say any more. However, this time, surprisingly, the boss Ji Mingxiu actually agreed to Ji Mingpeng's plan. Ji Mingxiu turned the Buddha bead in his hand and said slowly, "Mom, I think Lao San's plan is feasible." Mrs. Ji raised her eyebrows and looked at Ji Mingxiu. "Oh." Ji Mingxiu opened his lips and explained slowly, "Lao San is powerful, and there are many masters around him. It is really difficult to take his life. In addition, he has been abroad for many years, so our hands can't be so long. However, since he is back now, this capital is our territory. What if we spend a lot of money to hire someone who is many times more powerful than Lao San?" Suddenly, everyone looked at Ji Mingxiu. "Brother, have you already been selected?" Silent Mingyan asked. Ji Mingxiu smiled deeply and unfathomably, hot-handed witch. After returning to the Bright Moon Villa, Ji Henyuan had something to do. After taking a shower alone, Tang Tang nestled on the lazy sofa, holding the porcelain bottle in his hand, and couldn't make up his mind for a long time. She remembered that Diao Diao said that there was only one of this medicine in the world. Moreover, it can cure any disease. Maybe she will recover her memory if she eats it. Although she really wanted to recover her memory immediately, so that she could know the strange website, know her hidden secrets, know who the Diao Diao baboons are, and know whether she is a good person or a bad person. However, Tang Tang thought about it. Since any disease can be cured, maybe the poison in my brother's body is also effective. It's just that now, she still has this medicine without telling Brother Yuan, and she dares not tell Brother Yuan about it for the time being. After all, if Brother Yuan finds out that this is given to her by Diao Diao, he will suspect that she has colluded with Diao Diao, and then concludes that she is a big devil who does no evil. What if he doesn't want her? What's more, she didn't dare to give Ji Henyuan rashly until she couldn't be sure that Diao was really her own person. Entity. He medicine really had a miraculous effect. If she harms Brother Yuan, she will really be guilty of death. Thinking 1,000 times, Tang Tang is very entangled. Later, I regretted that I didn't ask more questions today. Suddenly, Tang Tang's eyes lit up. Can I find Diao Diao's contact information on that strange website? Suddenly, Tang Tang moved as he said, immediately found the laptop, and instinctively knocked down the string of strange letters. The computer screen turned black in a second. And the website popped up again. However, this time, before he could find Diao Diao, Tang Tang was shocked by a message at the top of the page. Unexpectedly, someone paid 3 billion, hired a man called Hot Hand Witch to buy Brother Yuan's life. At the same time, I am also willing to pay another 1 billion yuan to help all kinds of killers and help hot witches. Whoever can take the life of Ji Henyuan will take this money, or cooperate and share according to the efforts. Suddenly, Tang Tang felt like he had fallen into an ice cellar. Unexpectedly, someone spent so much money to kill her brother. Because of the huge amount of remuneration, many people immediately replied below, and even discussed to gather a group of killers to take the life of Ji Henyuan together, and then happily divide the money. Tang Tang held the mouse's hand and couldn't help shaking. Unexpectedly, so many people are eager to try. Well, will this hot witch, who has not yet appeared to take orders, be more powerful? 问号. After all, the person behind the scenes gave 3 billion to hire her alone. If she takes the order, what should her brother do? Who is the person behind the scenes? Suddenly, Tang Tang's fist clicked. No matter what kind of hot hand or killer he is, as long as they dare to come, as long as they dare to touch her brother's hot hair, she wants them to look good. Chapter 37. Be my brother's bodyguard. Ji Henyuan felt that his Uger was a little strange. A few days ago, he was more attached to her. Whenever he had something to do and was reluctant to leave her, she casually let him do things. She even preferred to be alone, picking fruit trees, going to the vegetable garden to follow the vegetable farmers to learn how to grow vegetables, and even go fishing. A person can also live a leisurely life, and a small life is prosperous, and it is also happy. It seems that she can have endless happy things by herself. But in the past few days, the situation has completely changed. His sugar sticks to him almost all the time. When working, meeting, eating, taking a shower, changing clothes, sleeping. Even when he goes to the toilet, Ten has to stay at the door of the toilet and never leave him for more than 2 meters. Even, he was in the toilet and she was guarding outside. She also had to shout at him from time to time, and he had to respond. In the past few days, Ji-Hyun has been in a trance. Does Hi-S Sugar love him too much? Loved her so much that she doesn't have herself. Although, he is very happy and enjoys his sugar sticking to him all the time. However, he always felt that there must be something strange about Ten's sudden great change. This little guy is not hiding anything from him, is he? Or are you playing some tricks? This day, he was in a meeting. She was sitting on the sofa and playing with her mobile phone. While playing, he also looked up at him from time to time. Even Ji-Hyun felt that would it be a little boring for his little Ten to guard him like this and completely centered on him. Just after his meeting, he was about to grab the candy and ask the truth. Suddenly, Lim Kim-myun came with Lim Ji-ren. It's time to check their bodies again. However, Ten was much more excited than usual when he saw Lim Kim-myun pushing the door in. She jumped in front of Lim Kim-myun, and then blinked her crescent eyes and asked urgently, Lim Kim-myun, is your medical skills at its peak? Lim Kim-myun was flattered and flirted with the green bangs in front of his forehead and said, not to mention the peak, the top 3 in China should be fine, right? Wow, so you are so greasy. Ten suddenly flashed her crystal crescent eyes and looked at Lim Kim-myun bling. She was thinking that since Lim Kim-myun can be counted as one of the top 3 in China, can Lim Kim-myun quietly show her her pill? Anyway, she wants to treat Brother Yuan. As long as it is for Brother Yuan, Lim Kim-myun will definitely not refuse her, and will help her hide the secret. However, in Lim Kim-myun's opinion, Ten looked at him with such bright eyes. It was clear that he heard that he was so powerful that he admired him. It turns out that it is such a happy thing to be so adored by a little girl. He felt that he was about to float up. No wonder the silent abyss is deeply immersed in it and can't extricate itself. Lim Kim-myun covered his mouth and sighed out lightly, trying to suppress the pride in his heart. However, after the hand at the corner of his mouth was put down, the corners of his mouth still couldn't help rising, almost to the corners of his eyes. He raised his chin slightly and pretended to be humble. He was born in a medical family and graduated from a world-renowned school. He was known as a medical genius since he was a child. Greasy. Ten couldn't help applauding. The more ability Lim Kim-myun is, the more hopeful he has to cure his brother. Lim Kim-myun glanced at Ten, and the corners of his lips were about to reach the edge of the sky. He wanted to brag about himself. However, he suddenly felt a burst of cold air passing by. He couldn't help shivering and even rubbing his arms. Strange, it's obviously in the scorching heat. How? It's a little cold for no reason. Could it be that the air conditioner in the study of Ji-Hyun is too low? Lim Kim-myun looked up at the central air conditioner. However, before he felt the cold air of the central air conditioner, a large amount of cold air rushed straight towards him. Ji-Hyun came over with a cold face, directly blocking between him and Ten. Then, in front of him, he picked up the princess and sat on the sofa together. He hugged the person and sat on his lap, regardless of his third person. This posture is as boring as it is, and more loving it is. However, before Lim Kim-myun could resist the ridicule, he only saw Ji-Hyun tidying the broken hair in Ten's ear and suddenly asked, is he awesome, or am I awesome? Suddenly, a sour smell spread out. Lim Kim-myun suddenly realized, some people are jealous. Lim Kim-myun suddenly had the thought of making trouble. He sat on the sofa, and then hooked his lips and looked at Ten. We should also touch our conscience to tell the truth. Don't tell falsely without conscience because of someone's threat. If you really think who is more powerful, just tell the truth. Ten blinked, obediently hugged Ji-Hyun's neck, and looked at Lim Kim-myun innocently. I've always been telling the truth. It must be my brother who is the most tired. Lim Kim-myun is awesome, that's in the medical field. But her brother Yuan, that's all around that angle. In her heart, he is a priceless treasure. There is no one more powerful than him. In an instant, Lim Kim-myun calmed down. He gave Ten an extremely resentful look. Liar. Women are all liars. Obviously, he just said that he was tired of it. Sure enough, Ji-Hyun was fascinated by the art of worship of Ten. However, he suddenly felt, if there was also a little girl who was full of him and admired him, then he has to be like Ji-Hyun, grinning every day. Isn't that right now? Hearing Ten say that he is the most powerful, he can't hide the smile on the corners of his mouth. Just now, there was a sleet, snow and cold wind, and now it's a on night day and the sun is shining. TSK, a man in love is a dog. At the same time, Lim Ji-ren, who was not allowed to enter the study, but had been guarding outside the door, peeking inside the study through the crack of the door. At this time, His whole face was distorted. Why? How can Tang Gao enter his study? Tang Gao, she is also worthy. In front of Ji Henyun, he hooked up her cousin. What a water-based popular bitch. Only Ji Henyun and Lin Qingmian, two people who have been fighting for their careers and have never been in love or even have much contact with the opposite sex, can see Tang Gao's bad and disgusting nature, and even was eaten to death by her. Suddenly, when he heard Tang Jiao ask Lin Qingmian if he wanted to go fishing, Lin Jiren suddenly had a clever move. Otherwise, Chapter 37 The Great Vinegar of the Silent Abyss. Ten actually asked Lin Qingmian to go fishing. At this time, Ji Henyun was calmed down by Ten's sentence that he was the most powerful, and suddenly it turned into a heavy rain. And it's more serious than just now. This guy, how dare he ask Lin Qingmian to go fishing alone in front of him? What? She likes fishing. Can't she ask him to accompany her? Why does it have to be Lin Qingmian, a green idiot? Ji Henyun suddenly pinched Ten's chin unhappily, forcing her eyes to only see him, and her eyes were deep and forced to ask, "You are going fishing alone with him, aren't you?" Ten nodded honestly. Only when she went out alone with Lin Qingmian and left Gao Villa, which was all within the scope of monitoring, could she quietly take out the porcelain bottle and show it to Lin Qingmian. Otherwise, if she hadn't figured out the medicine herself and took it out rashly, her brother suspected that she was a bad guy who secretly colluded with Diao and planned to harm him. Then she would have jumped into the Yellow River and couldn't wash it. Looking at the little girl in her arms answered without hesitation. Ji Henyun's face suddenly sank like water. Now the rainstorm turned into hail. However, Lin Qingmian, who didn't mind the big deal, continued to coax. Okay, Zaya Ten, I want to go fishing with you. Lin Qingmian deliberately glanced at Ji Henyun with a funny look, hooked his lips and coaxed. It's just the two of us. The bright ending that picked up directly made Ji Henyun's face dark like the end of the world. At the same time, the smell of vinegar in the air is getting stronger and stronger. However, Ji Henyun has been in a stalemate, while Ten has been looking straight at him with eyes of expectation. Looking at the expectant eyes of the little fudge in his arms, Ji Henyun's heart softened and surrendered. That's it. As soon as he heard Ji Henyun say these two words, Ten suddenly felt that there was a drama, and his back straightened up. However, Ji Henyun said sullenly again, "Then I'll go fishing with Y. Oh, Lin Qingmian. Sugar. The next second, Ji Henyun picked up Ten and stood up. In the posture of a father's hug, he strode out with the person in his arms. He commanded ruthlessly as he walked, "Lin Qingmian, you take the fishing gear, and I'll go first with Ten. Lin Qingmian, dog, you are a real dog." Ji Henyun directly strode out of the bright moon villa with Ten in his arms and crossed the forest to the lake. It seemed that he was really going fishing with M. Seeing that the plan was in the water, Ten curled his lips. "Brother, don't you still have something to do? Why do you have time to go fishing with me?" Ji Henyun sneered. "I don't know if Ten is complaining that I'm usually too busy to go fishing with you, or complain that I disturbed you and Lin Qingmian for fishing alone." Ten said conditioned reflexively, "Of course." However, before the second four words were said, Ji Henyun suddenly gagged her mouth. He took a mouthful of her soft lips fiercely and said in a hoarse and paranoid voice, "Baby, haven't you been clinging to me all this time, or even not leaving me, fishing with Lin Qingmian? Do you rest assured that I'm alone at home? Don't worry, I'll find a woman to go fishing alone." Suddenly, Ten's pupils widened, and then he remembered the big thing. Today, Lin Qingmian came over. She only thought about medicine, but she forgot that her brother was still a fragrant bone in the eyes of a group of killers. 50 billion, especially that hot witch. Suddenly, Ten hugged Ji Henyun's neck and looked around vigilantly. Any wind blowing grass is a dangerous signal for her. "Brother, why don't we go back? Let's not go fishing today." Hearing the words, Ji Henyun frowned and looked at Ten puzzledly. "What's going on with this little guy recently? Why is it so strange?" Suddenly, there was a noise in the jungle. Ten's auricle moved slightly, and suddenly jumped down from Ji Henyun alertly, protecting him in front of him. "Who is it? Come out." Her face was serious, and her fierce eyes were full of murderous intent. Lin Qingmian came out with fishing gear. He worked hard to hold the fishing gear of 3 people alone. As a result, Ji Henyun looked at him with disgust and made it clear that he was not willing to come. "Forget it. What about Sugar? What's the matter with this murderous look?" Obviously, she invited him to go fishing. How can these 2 people treat him like this? Ten was relieved to see that it was Lin Qingmian, withdrew his eyes, and lowered his eyes to think about it. Now it is not far from the Bright Moon Villa. If there is anything, Dog Gang can also respond immediately. Why don't we take this opportunity to see if we can attract a group of people, especially the hot hand witch who was pinned on the top of the homepage. She really wants to see what kind of person this hot hand witch is. Therefore, Ten jumped out of Ji Henyuan's arms excitedly, then held a fishing gear in Lin Qingmian's arms, and trotted towards the lake. Ji Henyuan, didn't you just go back? Ji Henyuan looked up at the sky. The sun is shining high, the blue sky and white clouds. It seems that the old saying is right. A woman's mind becomes faster than the weather. Ji Henyuan naturally followed Ten immediately, and Lin Qingmian followed with a resentful face. The three of them found a good seat and began to fish. In fact, Lin Qingmian usually likes fishing, but I don't know if he was born without fishing. After fishing for so many years, he can really catch a few times. However, he can't forget Ten's adoring eyes, let alone Ji Henyuan's expression when he was jealous. Therefore, at this time, he must pretend to be like this. After all, Ten doesn't remember anything. How can she steal fish? On the other hand, he has devoted himself to the study of fishing for many years and is well versed in fishing technology. Don't pretend at this me, let alone wait for when. Lin Qingmian slowly took out the fishing rod and taught it bitterly. Ten, look, this is how the fishing line is made. This is a bait. Before fishing, sprinkle a handful of bait to attract the fish over. The fish floats, and after 3 seconds, it will immediately pull it up steadily. Before he finished his words, suddenly, a snoof came from his ear. Ten had already put on the bait and directly threw the fishing rod roughly and began to fish. Lin Qingmian, he frowned and said like an old master, Ten, you can't catch fish like this. You have to listen to me and don't worry. I have been fishing for more than 10 years. I have been fishing since I was 10 years old. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian didn't finish his words and suddenly choked, and his saliva almost choked him to death. His pupils widened, and his eyes were about to come out. He looked at the scene in front of him incredulously. Ten suddenly shook the fishing rod, which was strong and rough. However, there was a lively fish hanging on her hook. Lin Qingmian felt his heart seemed to be hooked. Wow, it's dripping blood. So, fishing, is it so simple? As soon as the hook is thrown, the fish will automatically be hooked. Chapter 38 Ten's mother. Oh, Ji Henyuan sneered and immediately seized the opportunity to mock Lin Qingmian. Just you. Do you still want to teach me Ten? She can catch fish with her eyes closed. Do you think everyone, like you, can see a fish tail for a day of fishing? Lin Qingmian, shrimp and pig's heart. You. Ten threw the fish into the barrel and tilted his head innocently. Is it difficult to fish? Can't Lin Qingmian fish? Ji Henyuan hooked his lips and smiled. Yes, he usually fishes for a month or two, and he probably catches a small fish fry. Ten opened her mouth in surprise. So, however, she thought fishing was very simple. Just throw the fishing rod down like this, and the fish will be hooked by itself, without any effort. Every time she comes out all afternoon, she has to carry a bucket of fish back, so that the whole villa can eat fresh fish. The amount is full. Lin Qingmian, I have nothing to say. It doesn't matter. Lin Qingmian. Ten smiled encouragingly at Lin Qingmian. Since I called you out to go fishing, if you really can't catch one later, then I'll give you 1 or 2. Quiet and cold Yuan looked at Ten and smiled. Our Ten is generous and kind, always helping the disadvantaged groups in this way. Lin Qingmian. Poison. It's so poisonous. This couple is a very poisonous assassin, the king of stabbing, shrimp and pig's heart. He really believes in their evil and wants to be this light bulb. If you eat dog food, you will still be poked in the heart. Lin Qingmian really couldn't stand it. As soon as he threw the fishing rod, he said, I'll go back and get some wine, drink some wine and pour some sorrow. It's just right to go dog food. Angie shouted heartlessly, just bring me some snacks and fruits next time, she shouted, and then shook the fishing rod and caught another big fat fish. The superior size of this fish is so huge that it is the type that Lin Qingmian has never caught. Lin Qingmian wiped the corners of his eyes sadly and strode away with a throbbing heart. The promised pretend, but the result. Wow, who will soothe his heartache? His heart is like a knife cut. When Ten was fishing, Ji Henyuan was watching her mobile phone and guarding her. Suddenly, there was an emergency meeting. I was afraid of disturbing Ten's fishing, so Ji Henyuan went a long distance to pick it up. Ten, who was fishing, was paying attention to the fishing rod while paying attention to her brother's safe back in the woods, while waiting for Lin Qingmian's snacks. Suddenly, there was a noise in the jungle. Ten subconsciously thought it was Lin Qingmian, and raised his lips and said loudly without turning his head, Dian. Lin Qingmian, come and have a look. It's time for you to go back and get a snack. I caught another 5. But your fishing rod has really been motionless. Isn't it a little metaphysics on your body? However, Lin Qingmian's cursing sound did not come as Tan's imagination. Tan frowned and suddenly felt bad. He suddenly looked back. I saw 3 figures, a man and 2 women, who were opening the bushes and walking slowly. The 2 women she knows are Zhao Zufen and Tang Yunbing. However, there is another middle-aged man she doesn't know but instinctively feels familiar with. Tan frowned fiercely. How did they find here? This Yan'an mountain is the territory of his brother Yuan. This lake in this forest is even more unknown. But why did they find it so accurately? What else do they want to do? What are you doing here? Tan's tone was obviously unhappy. The middle-aged man's face suddenly sank and he stared at Tan. Tang Jiaogao, how do you talk to the elders? Is that how I usually teach you? Zhao Zufen held the man's hand and gently persuaded. Yuehu, don't be angry with the child. Gao must have been scared by our sudden appearance. Why is she scared? Does she still have the face to be scared? Tang Yuehu said coldly. I've only been on a business trip for 2 months. And she actually made so many things. The reputation of our Tang family is about to be ruined by her. Tang Yuehu gritted his teeth and stared at Tan. Sa Yun, why don't you go home? You're not going to take the surname Tang, are you? At this time, Tan also understood. The middle-aged man in front of her, I guess, is her and Tang Yunbing's father, Tang Yuehu. Tan's face was expressionless, and she just said casually, whatever. It doesn't matter what the surname is. Anyway, she just needs to rely on her brother in her life. You, 感叹号. Tang Yuehu was immediately stared at by the blow of his beard in anger. Sure enough. The rumors I heard when I came back are all true. Tang Jiao, you have been pretending to be a good girl in front of me for 21 years. I really believe you. Thinking that Jiang Muse didn't like you and didn't want to marry you, I was afraid that you would be sad. So he specially found a good marriage for you. What about the result? Is that how you repay me? If I had known that you were this virtue, I would have let you die outside. Suddenly, Tan's face also sank. Although she doesn't remember anything, she doesn't know how she and Tang Yuehu used to get along. However, what Tang Yuehu just said, he is a qualified father and a father who loves his daughter. Should he say it to his daughter? He just came back from a business trip. Why did he listen to those rumors instead of asking his daughter in person? My daughter didn't come home. Why didn't she care? But all the blame. Suddenly, Tan felt as disgusting as being stuffed with a piece of stinky shit. What are you doing with this kind of family? It's better to cut two with one knife. Tan said coldly with a calm face and extremely indifferently. Then you can treat me as dead outside now. You, 感叹号, you rebellious girl. Tang Yuehu was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. Zhao Zufen quickly patted him on the back, and then persuaded him. Yuehu, don't be angry with Gao. Those rumors can't be true. Don't we know who our Gao is? What's more, there is a reason why Gao didn't go home. She is now on good terms with Master Jisi, so she lives on this wild mountain. Suddenly, Tang Yuehu was stunned. Silent fourth master, it's me. Tang Yuehu's voice fell, and suddenly an extremely cold voice sounded, like a sharp blade, rubbing his ear. There is no blood, but it shocks people's hearts. I saw Jihenyuan, who strode over, hugged Tan into his arms to protect him, and then his sharp eyes pushed Tang Yuehu. Is your family is hundreds of square meters old and shabby, worthy of my lonely woman, and you want her to die outside. I don't know, how many lives do you have? Suddenly, Tang Yuehu was so scared that his back was cold, sweating coldly, and he trembled. This is the first time he has seen Jihenyuan so closely. Sure enough, it's exactly the same as the rumor. Cruel, ruthless, 感叹号. It's extremely frightening. Sorry, fourth master, my father didn't mean that. How could he let his sister? However, Tang Yunbing pretended to be understanding before she finished her words. She was directly interrupted by Jihenyuan. Did I let you speak? In an instant, Tang Yunbing's face turned pale. I suddenly felt regret and fear in my heart. They shouldn't have come. If it hadn't been for the sudden receipt of a strange text message, telling them that Tang Gao would come here to fish without the cold abyss, how could they have come? Naturally, they have something to do with Tang Gao. But now, Jihenyuan is so protective. If it goes on like this, they not only can't please Tang Yao, but I'm afraid they will die here. Feel the two around you. Zhao Zufen cursed in her heart with hatred, and then suddenly looked at Tan gently and said in a gentle voice, Jiao, we have no other intention to come to you today. I just want to ask you about your mother. Do you want to know? Chapter 39. She is his only light. Zhao Zufen's words stunned Tan. Mom, instinctively, Tan felt his heart twitching. what's going on? I don't know what Zhao Zufeng whispered to him behind Tang Yuehu's ear. Tang Yuehu's attitude suddenly changed 360 degrees. He immediately smiled kindly at Tang Tang, and then said, Jiao, you said that you have a boyfriend, and you didn't tell your father. Your mother should blame me for not taking good care of you later. By the way, Dad has something to say to you alone. Why don't you come over with Dad? Suddenly, Tang Tang's eyebrows beat faster. What does it mean? Do you still want to be alone? However, in her brother's territory, she naturally knew that Tang Yuehu could not make any waves. What's more, with Tang Yuehu's fat-headed and big-eared face, it is estimated that she can knock him down with one punch. No, there is no need for a punch. After all, her little fist is very greasy. So, Tang Tang grabbed Ji Henyuan's hand, looked at him and said, Brother, I'll go for 2 minutes. Ji Henyuan looked at her, said nothing, and nodded in a tolerant way. However, looking at the back of the little guy following Tang Yuehu, Ji Henyuan's deep eyes slowly felt a sense of distress. His sugar is the same as his. I haven't experienced maternal love. It is precisely because they have the same experience that they are attracted to each other. In this world, Tang Tang is the only person who has given him love and warmth. In his dark abyss, she is his only light. She gave him warmth and strength. It is the whole meaning and hope of his life. He is destined to be inseparable from her in this life. He can't live without her. However, when Ji Henyuan looked deeply at the back of Tang Tang talking to Tang Yuehu in the distance, Zhao Zufen and Tang Yundian whispered for a while. Then, Zhao Zufen suddenly opened her mouth. Master Jisi, I have something bright to tell you. I wonder if you would like to hear it. Ji Henyuan's thoughts were disturbed. He frowned fiercely, and his cold eyes suddenly shot at Zhao Zufen. She told me about her, and I need you to LK about it. Zhao Zufen trembled with fear. She carefully looked up at Ji Henyuan. When she touched his eyes, she only felt cold around her. This man, really, it's terrible. I don't know how Tang Yuejiu is usually so stupid and timid. How did he get into the eyes of Ji Henyuan? And how dare he get along with Ji Henyuan alone? She really felt that if she got along with such a terrible man, she would have to live a long life. But, for her Yingying, she must risk her life. If you please Ji Xi, they can get more. She gritted her teeth and summoned up her courage to continue. Ji Xi, I know you are protecting you, but now that Gao Gao has lost his memory, he can't remember many things. I still need to help her more. The elders who have watched her grow up since she was a child. For example, she studied at Deep Blue College, Business. Oh what? The teacher couldn't contact her, so he urged me to come and said that she had more course exams. Try not to participate. Learn. The score is not enough. Big soon. For open. Learning is her last chance. If it can't be passed. Suddenly, Ji Henyuan frowned slightly. What is Deep Blue College? How did Tang Tang go to Deep Blue College? Still learn. Not enough points. He funded 100 million yuan to Deep Blue College. Should it be enough? Suddenly, the emotion flashed in Ji Henyuan's eyes. He suddenly remembered. Deep Blue College seemed to have a. At the same time, seeing the expression of Ji Henyuan, Zhao Zufen knew that her plan had worked. Yundying is young, and she only stares at Ji Senai. But she is different. Ji Senai and Ji Xi are staring. At that time, when Ji Henyuan knew that Yundying was an excellent student of Anming College, a top college in the capital. Sheng, don't you think Yundying is better if you beat Tang Yao's unknown college 10 streets? What's more, now Tang Yao has lost her memory. Can she pass those exams? I'm afraid it can only be delayed. Sometimes, you have to rely on your peers to support you. The more Zhao Zufen thought about it, the more she felt that there was a drama, and said with a smile, Master Jisi, you see, there are many such trivial things in Gao Gao, in case there is an emergency one day, and I can't find your people. Why don't you, Ji Xi? Please leave me a contact information. 问号. Ji Henyuan's cold eyes swept at Zhao Zufen, and his deep eyes seemed to penetrate people's hearts. It seems that everyone is exposed at a glance. So in front of him, Ji Henyuan turned his hand and fingered on it, and said in a cold tone, in the future, you can report this kind of thing to my assistant, trying to get his contact information. She is not Tang Tang's biological mother. Suddenly, something came to mind in Ji Henyuan's mind. How did the Tang family get here? At the same time, Tang Yuehu's side. Tang Yuehu changed his violent temper just now and was kind and gentle. Gao Gao, just now, Dad was too anxious and worried that you would go astray, so he talked to you like that. Don't argue with that. Sugar. If you slap it and give it a sweet date, can you think that the slap just now doesn't exist? What kind of truth is this? Ten Ten said speechlessly. If you have something to say, just let go. I don't know you now. Don't have to say these polite words to me. I'm not free. She is still busy fishing. I don't have time to chat with him. Tang Yuehu immediately frowned and wanted to attack again. What's the matter with this little girl? He was only on a business trip for 2 months. How did she come back as if she had changed? Is it possible that losing memory can even change the personality? Or did she pretend to be before? No, this girl knows what happened that year, right? Tang Yuehu was suddenly frightened and quickly hid his emotions. No, don't be in a hurry. If she knew, she should have asked him about the money. Now it seems that she doesn't know yet. Tang Yuehu comforted himself, breathed a sigh of relief, and then said slowly, Gao Gao, don't blame Dad. It's not that Dad doesn't care about you. It's really that Dad has been on a business trip for 2 months. No matter how much I call you, no one answers. Look, I'm so anxious to find here. Also, what's the situation between you and Ji? Dad also found a blind date for you, and they are still waiting for your blind date. Ten Ten frowned fiercely. Don't you want to talk about my mother? How did you say about the blind date? 大姐 T. Ang Yuehu said displeasantly. Ayo, what's your situation? Dad doesn't care about you, and it doesn't care about you. Why are you like this now? Also, learn by yourself. You didn't go there either, did you? He is old. Shidu found his home. And what kind of boxing competition did you sign up for? What kind of boxing does the girl report? Do you want to be beaten into a pig's head and broken? I just want to tell you that your mother said back then that I hope you can grow up to be a quiet, gentle, filial and kind girl. In the past, you were also good and filial. Why haven't we seen each other for 2 months and become so stinging? If you are like this, how do you want me to go to the field to explain to your mother in 100 years? Suddenly, Ten Ten's heart was stunned and he looked at Tang Yuehu incredulously. Although his words are very informative, however, Ten Ten has only grasped one key point at this time. That is, her biological mother has died. Chapter 40 IW. I'll give you all my love, brother Ayuan. Ten Ten depends on nesting in the arms of Ji Henyuan, obviously in a bad mood. Ji Henyuan hugged Ten Ten's slender waist and gently rubbed the little guy's head. What's the matter? Are you in a bad mood? As soon as the Tang family left, Ten Ten leaned in his arms and kept calling him over and over again. Ten Ten flattened his mouth and whispered. Tang Yuehu said that my mother was dead. She knew that she was an illegitimate daughter, but she also looked forward to seeing her mother. After all, every time she saw Zhao Sufen protect Tang Yingying so much, she gave almost everything for Tang Yingying. Even if what they did was wrong, she was still envious. What Tang Yingying has is the maternal love she has never had. She didn't recover her memory, and she didn't find anything about her biological mother on the computer. So I have been looking forward to it, but, just failed like this. In this world, she really only has her brother. Feeling the low mood of the villain in his arms, Ji Henyuan only felt that his heart was stuffy. He hugged Ten Ten tightly and wanted to comfort him, but he couldn't comfort him. After all, even he himself has never felt maternal love. After giving birth to him, his mother has always regarded him as an enemy and regarded him as the most disgusting thing in the world. Just because his existence reminded her all the time that she was defiled. She was defiled by the dirty man who has been raising Ji her lover and has never been married to her. They were originally husband and wife on the surface, and they were different, but he had the facts of husband and wife and gave birth to him. She hit him and scolded him. Later, she went crazy. He has never felt maternal love since he was a child. What's the difference between having a mother and not having a mother? Ten Ten. Ji Henyuan hugged Ten Ten tightly, and his voice was a little hoarse. I will love you for her. He will give all his love to his sugar. I just hope that she can always live as bright as the bright moon, not as dark and dirty as him. Brother Ayuan. Ten Ten was suddenly moved and looked at the silent cold abyss with moist eyes. Although she didn't know all the past of the Ji family, she could probably guess that the relationship between Brother Ayuan and his biological mother might not be good. After all, he had never heard him mention her, let alone seen him see her. In fact, my brother is also very uncomfortable, isn't he? Compared with her, Ayuan family is more complicated. So many people stared at him, hoped that something would happen to him. There are even people who spent 5 billion yuan on the internet to buy his life. Even, I don't know who poisoned my brother's body. At the thought of this, Ten Ten suddenly forgot his emotions and was full of heartache for Ji Henyuan. Her brother Ayuan is the one who needs love and warmth the most. The next second, Ten Ten held Ji Henyuan's face, kissed the corners of his lips, and said firmly, Brother Yuan, no matter when and no matter what, Tang Tang will always be by your side. The sea is dry and the rocks are rotten, and the earth is old and the sky is barren. She only wants to accompany her brother and be a little light to warm him. Hearing the confession of the villain's true feelings and looking at her bright and firm eyes, Ji Henyun was instantly moved. From the beginning to the end, all he wanted was her love. As long as she still loves him, even if it's just a little bit, he is willing to give everything for her. His all, even his life. The next second, Ji Henyun suddenly bent down and slammed Tang Tang fiercely. If it is said that Tang Tang just now was a dragonfly, so now this one, it's more like the surging sea. He wants to turn all his love into action and pour it to her. Lin Qingmian hummed a minor tune, and when he came back with wine in one hand and snacks and fruits in the other, he suddenly saw the scene in front of him, and his steps suddenly stiffened. He shouldn't be here. He should be in the bottom of the car. Children are not suitable. Single dogs are not suitable. Ooh, these two dog thieves. He took him back to get things, but he was messing around here. Hit, wild, war, what? The room at home is so big, bet, can't satisfy them anymore. Ooh, he doesn't want to see it. He wants to go home. However, on the other hand, Lin Qingmian thought, again, why did he give way to them so obediently and sensible? The fishing gear was all taken by him with his hard work. He hasn't started fishing yet, and he hasn't caught a fish yet. Why did he leave? Suddenly, Lin Qing walked over righteously, and deliberately stepped on the branches heavily and made a creaking sound. Ji Henyun and Tang Tang naturally heard this movement. Seeing that it was Lin Qingmian, Tang Tang suddenly shyly got into the arms of Ji Henyun and hid, subconsciously licking his warm lips. Hiss, it's still a little painful. Numb. Ji Henyun blocked Tang Tang's face with his big hand and stared at Lin Qingmian displeasedly. What are you doing here? I can see that he and Tang Tang are kissing. Is it hot? Finally, his little fudge was not so shy and tight, and he could have a deeper discussion. Unexpectedly, he was interrupted by the guy in front of him before he could have time. Excuse me. Lin Qingmian looked puzzled. Hey, it was you who asked me to go back to get something. What? This shrimp and pig heart, highly poisonous dog food couple. Are you going to kill the donkey? Ji Henyun said coldly. I asked you to go back to get something, but I didn't ask you to come back. Lin get it. Why are they all reasonable? How can he say that he can't beat them? However, on the other take, Lin Qingmian still felt that he had made money. What if he was scolded a few words? He really disturbed their good fee. NGS. Should we still be happy? Lin Qingmian immediately hooked his lips, came over righteously, and picked up his fishing rod. Yo-oh, the bait has been eaten up. No, I have to catch a fish today. I'm lonely, and I have to catch a fish girl to accompany me. Right. Lin Qingmian hung up the bait and threw the fishing rod heavily into the lake. Noticing the darkened face of Ji Henyun, he deliberately hummed excitedly. Fish girl, hurry up and get hooked. I need you so much. That's when, suddenly, a figure on the surface of the lake broke directly out of the water, set off a white wave. Water drops are scattered everywhere. Lin Qingmian was stunned. Fish girl, really caught by him. However, Tang Tang in Ji Henyun's arms suddenly poked his head out. The whole person is like a cat with a tail, immediately alert. Chapter 41. Tang Tang strives to protect the cold abyss. I saw the fish girl breaking out of the water, like a white light, like a broken bamboo, in straight towards the cold abyss. At the moment when she was about to approach the silent cold abyss, a dagger suddenly appeared in her hand, pointing straight to the throat of the silent cold abyss. In this situation, it is simply to directly claim the life of Ji Henyun. Tang Tang squinted his eyes fiercely, and a knife instantly slashed at the fish girl's arm. The fish girl is fast, but the sugar is faster. Before the fish girl's dagger touched the cold abyss, she was slapped down by Tang Tang. His palm. Then, Tang Tang jumped out of the arms of the cold abyss at a very fast speed, and fiercely went straight to the fish girl. At first, the fish girl didn't want to be too entangled with Tang Tang. Half of her attention was on Tang Tang, and half of her attention was on Ji Henyun. However, slowly, she is getting harder and harder. Tang Tang killed step by step, pointing directly to the dead hole of the fish girl, punched to the flesh. He even kicked the fish girl's ribs directly, kicked her out, and fell heavily on the trunk. The fish girl spit out a mouthful of blood fiercely, and then she realized that the weak-looking little girl in front of her was not as weak as she looked at all. On the contrary, her strength is even superior to her. However, at the thought of the 2 billion, the fish girl gritted her teeth fiercely and jumped away to Tang Tang again. Since she concentrated 100% of her attention to deal with her, she must die on herself first, and then kill Ji Henyun to complete their pair of miserable mandarin dogs. The two began to fight again, and the speed seemed to flash through illusions. Lin Qingmian, who is still fishing with a fishing rod. 问号. He felt that his back was numb. Is this really Tang Tang? The girl who fell into the water picked up by Ji Henyun, a weak and pitiful floating pine with no branches to rely on. The poor girl who is soft and helpless and has no memory. Did he give birth to an illusion? Or did he give birth to an illusion? Or did he give birth to an illusion? Seeing Lin Qingmian's expression, Ji Henyun smiled. Do you know why you don't deserve to touch her hair? His sugar seems to be delicate and soft, but in fact his strength is outstanding. Maybe there is a bigger secret hidden. After all, it seems that even he doesn't know the whole thing about this little girl. Therefore, even he is not worthy of her at all. His sugar is the bright moon in the sky, and no one is qualified to stain his fingers. The corners of Lin Qingmian's mouth twitched, and in his heart, he deeply condemned Ji Henyun's behavior of showing off his wife at this time. Shouldn't he comfort his brother and explain to him again? His weak and helpless heart also needs to be soothed. However, after mocking him, Ji Henyun looked at Tang Tang wholeheartedly. He knew that Tang Tang's strength was far superior to that of the fish girl, so before he took action, he let the little girl take a game by herself, moved his hand, and be happy. However, he was still worried that she would be accidentally injured, so he had to keep an eye on her. However, Lin Qingmian was really speechless about the operation of Ji Henyun. On what basis? On what basis? Why is his sugar so powerful? Why? Watching her fight is more important than comforting him. Question mark. Lin Qingmian suddenly felt wronged. No way, he also wants to be single. He also wants to have such an encounter with Ji Henyun, and pick up a little girl who is delicate and soft and full of his eyes. Suddenly, Lin Qingmian's attention was focused on the fish girl, and her eyes suddenly lit up. Isn't this girl his fate? This is what he caught. Suddenly, Tang Tang punched the fish girl. The fish girl hit the big tree directly and vomited blood. Tang Tang pointed directly to the fish girl's heavenly cover with a palm. The fish girl's pupils widened. Even if the murderous intent attacked her, she was already powerless to fight back. At his critical moment, Lin Qingmian suddenly roared. Keep people under your men. He rushed over and blocked the fish girl. Then he straightened his chest and looked at Tang Tang aggressively, protecting the cuff, and said, "This is my man. I don't allow you to kill her." Sugar. When Lin Qingmian asked her subordinates to stay, she slowed down and wanted to hear what Lin Qingmian wanted to say. But, I never thought that this guy would say such a sentence. This person wants to kill her brother. It's obviously those killers who want money. What's more, she still came alone. Maybe it was the 3 billion hot witch. How can you let it go like this? However, Tang Tang suddenly felt strange. Since the people behind the scenes will spend 3 billion to ask the hot witch to take the order, and other people who take the order can only share 4 billion, it means that the hot witch should be very, very powerful. But why did she just feel that the hot witch in front of her was more than enough for her to deal with? She hasn't even done her best. Just as Tang Tang was thinking, Lin Qingmian had begun to take care of the fish girl. He held the fish girl. "Miss Fish, how are you? Can you still walk?" He briefly took a look at the fish girl's injury and found that her injury was too serious, so he simply bent his legs and bent down. "Come on, I'll carry you back to treat your wounds." Tang Tang looked at Lin Qingmian inexplicably, and then looked back at Ji Henyun. He asked very speechlessly, "Brother Yuan, what kind of crazy is Lin Qingmian doing?" The person who wants to kill her brother, Lin Qingmian, still wants to take her back for treatment. How dare she fight for nothing just now? Isn't Lin Qingmian going to blame her for being heavy? As a result, Lin Qingmian's complaining voice came into Tang Tang's ears the next second. "Tang Tang, it's not me who I'm talking about you. She's also a girl. How can you do it so hard?" Sugar. Ji Honey, Yuan immediately strode over, holding Tang Tang's slender waist with one hand, and looked at Lin Qingmian coldly. "Lin Qingmian, if you dare to say a word of Tang Tang again, do you believe that I will immediately beat her to death?" Ji Henyun waved another palm, which scared Lin Qingmian to immediately protect the fish girl behind him. He said angrily, "This is the girl I worked hard to catch, and it's my fate. If you dare to kill her, I will break with you in the future. I don't care about you anymore." In an instant, Tang Tang suddenly realized. It turned out that it was not Lin Qingmian who colluded with the killer, but that he fell in love with the fish girl at first sight. Tang Tang immediately curled his lips and smiled, looked at Lin Qingmian mockingly, and joked, Good, don't move her. However, you healed her injury, and she will kill us again later. What do you think?" Lin Qingmian immediately straightened his chest and assured, "Don't worry, my people, I'm in charge." He first locked her up to treat her wounds, and then slowly learned about her past. He believes that she definitely didn't mean to hurt Ji Henyun. As long as he is single-minded to her, she will definitely be moved by him, and then rely on him and fall in love with him. In the future, you will love him wholeheartedly like Tang Tang and love him like Ji Henyun, won't you? Suddenly, Lin Qingmian was full of confidence. He directly leaned over and picked up the extremely weak fish girl, and her boyfriend strode back with full strength. Tang Tang had no choice but to laugh. Brother Yuan, if I hadn't known that Lin Qingmian would not betray you, I would have suspected that he had colluded with Miss Fish and inexplicably protected a girl like this. Ji Henyun rubbed Tang Tang's soft waist, which was unpredictable. Let's wait and see. This time, Lin Qingmian has suffered. Maybe, it will fall a lot. He knew that Lin Qingmian envied him for having a candy. However, is it everyone who'd be as lucky as him to pick up the girl he loves, and the girl happens to fall in love with him? I don't know that what I picked up may be a thorny rose. Chapter 42. Tang Tang accidentally hit his head. Seeing that Lin Qingmian suddenly came back with a girl covered in blood, Lin Jiren, who had not yet left, suddenly widened his pupils and was surprised. What's the situation? Didn't she secretly send a message to inform Tang Yunbing and others, and even take the opportunity to attract the attention of the bodyguards to let them in unknowingly? Shouldn't it be now? Tang Jiao and Tang Yunbing quarreled fiercely and even had a big fight, directly exposing her bad nature in front of Ji Henyun, which made Ji Henyun extremely disgusted with her and drove her back to the Tang family directly. Even if there is no result she wants to see most, Tang Yunbing, who is short-sighted and greedy enough, will definitely take the opportunity to make some outrageous demands to Ji Henyun. At the same time, it can also let Ji Henyun know how vulgar her family is. It's not enough to match him at all. So, now, where is Tang Gao? Where is the lonely abyss? However, at this moment, even if Lin Jiren is confused, he has no time to think so much. After all, what she should please most now is that she can continue to go in and out of Gaoil Villa. Lin Qingmian. She trotted to Lin Qingmian and asked in surprise, "Cousin, what's the situation? Who are you holding?" Lin Qingmian was surprised for a moment when he saw Lin Jiren. "Why haven't you left yet? But it's just right not to leave. Come and give me an emergency treatment for Miss Yu." Lin Jiren's eyelashes trembled. Miss Yu. She suddenly felt disappointed again. If only it was Tang Yao. It's best for Ji Henyun to beat Tang Gaojiu all over his body with blood. Lin Qingmian nodded. He didn't pay attention to Lin Jiren's expression at all. Instead, he kept looking at the fish girl in his arms. He cut his lips and smiled, as if to show off his cherished treasure, and said with a smile, "It's the fish girl I caught from fishing." He looked at Lin Jiren confidently and hooked his lips proudly. "Am I awesome, Lin Jiren? So, this surplus, isn't that fish?" At this time, Lin Jiren has no time to think about Tang Jiaojiu's affairs. Her cousin, is he out of his brain? Fishing for a girl, mermaid princess. Is it a demon or a ghost? She seriously suspected that Lin Qingmian's green hair had affected his IQ. However, Lin Qingmian said anxiously, "Hurry up, don't delay. She was seriously injured and lost too much blood. You should stop her emergency bleeding first. I'll drive here. Let's go directly to my hospital. I'll treat her in person." The fish girl he caught himself. He must be responsible to the end. At this time, Lin Jiren didn't want to leave anymore, so he had to leave with him. Soon after they left, Ji Henyun and Tang Tang also came back with fish buckets. Tang Tang just had a big fight and went straight to the bathroom to take a shower after coming back. Take a bath with the usual milk and sprinkle some rose petals. Every time you soak for 10 minutes, you can soak your body with milky fragrance, mixed with a faint rose fragrance. However, she has been thinking about things in her mind today, so she unconsciously forgot the time. 20 minutes have passed, and she hasn't even got up yet. Suddenly, there was a click. The bathroom door was opened. Tang Tang suddenly returned to his senses. I saw Ji Henyun strode over and looked at her with concern. "Tang Tang, why did you soak for so long? This little guy even has to worry about taking a shower now. If he doesn't care, how long will she soak? If you make yourself swollen, will it directly become swollen sugar or plus sugar, or fluffy, sweet and soft milk-flavored marshmallows?" Tang Tang was relieved to see that it was Ji Henyun, and bit his lip and said innocently, "Brother, I'm thinking about things." "What are you thinking about?" Ji Henyun walked to Tang Tang's side, consciously cleaned his hands, and slowly helped her rub, wash, body, some cold hands. The palm touched the back, which immediately caused a shiver in Tang Tang's back. Tang Tang couldn't help but remember that last time, her brother ran away. This time, why did he be so natural and logical? Feel the pair of shoe on the back, slowly touch, waist, department. The feeling of shiver gradually spread throughout the body. Tang Tang's head shook and she tried to disperse the color ideas in her mind, but her brain said something to divert her attention. I'm thinking that the fish girl is obviously coming for you today. Will there be more people coming to kill you in the future? In case they are premeditated, organized, and strong, how should we deal with it? Hearing Tantan's words, Ji Henyun, who was wandering behind her back, suddenly stopped. A dark light flashed in his deep eyes. Looking at the back of Tantan's round head, he suddenly asked coldly, Tantan, do you know anything? This guy suddenly said that. The only thing he could think of was that she knew that he was hinged on the black web and summoned killers from all over the world to kill him. A list invited a hot-handed witch. 3 billion. A list calls for everyone. 2 billion. His life in the cold abyss is worth 5 billion in the eyes of the person who placed the order behind the scenes. Big money, big battle, vowing to let him die without a doubt. So, Tantan knew about it. So he was deliberately reminding him to prepare early. But, how does this guy know? In an instant, Tantan's heart was stumped. Oh no, she almost got exposed. If her brother knew that she could go to that inexplicable website, she would really be in the name of being a big devil. Even now, and she saw that the fish girl came to kill brother Aeon for money. Tantan already had a guess in her heart. Maybe she is also a killer. There is even a killer organization. After all, it was also mentioned in the words of Diao Diao and Baboon that day that the name of their organization was that if you have money, you can't make a bastard. She also thought that Diao Diao stopped brother Yuan's car that day, and seemed to mention some cold-faced Shura. This is the great name of the Taoist figure. Obviously, she is not a good person. It's the kind of person who kills for money. Tantan couldn't help looking down at his hand. This hand seemed to be white and flawless, soft and tender. But what if it has already been covered in blood? Will my brother still be willing to hold it, and even hold it devoutly as before? At this time, although Tantan's mind had turned 18 bends of the mountain road, in fact, only a few seconds had passed. She lowered her eyes, her eyelashes trembled, and whispered, I'm just very worried about my brother, so I'm afraid I have to think more. Brother. Tantan suddenly turned his head, and his moist eyes looked at Ji Henyun sincerely. He said in a soft voice, you must have nothing to do. You must live a long life. You must always accompany Tantan. Okay. Tantan likes the days when her brother is with her. Although she lost her memory, she felt that her life was particularly clean, worry-free and simple. She doesn't have to worry about anything. She just needs to look for happiness under the protection of her brother. All this is because of brother Aeon. Brother Aeon is the one who gives her everything, and at the same time, he is also her everything. She really loves him. I love him so much that I don't want to find my memory. I don't want to go back to the past. I just want to stay by his side greedily and be with him for a long time. I wake up every morning and see his face, and sleep sweetly with him in my arms every night. Such a day is really happy. In an instant, the emotions in Ji Henyun's eyes were moved. Feeling the affection in the warm and white little Tantan's eyes in front of him, Ji Henyun felt the water vapor in front of him constantly drilling into his heart. It gave birth to all his love and affection. Little guy, brother, want to. You should, won't refuse, will you? The next second, Ji Henyun suddenly leaned over. Mouth, lips, stick to each other. Tantan was caught off guard, but he accepted it quickly. In fact, she has been waiting for this day for a long time. Even, I can't wait for a long time. The fog is thick, and the water temperature is rising. But Tantan was originally twisting the upper body, and the posture was very uncomfortable. Ji Henyun simply put his hand on her armpit and lifted her up. He whisked out of the water, delicate and gorgeous. More annoying, Tantan was held up by Ji Henyun and left the warm water. She felt a trembling all over her body. I subconsciously want to hug the silent abyss tightly. She stepped forward and just wanted to hold him tightly. However, the bottom of the bath was too slippery, and she was completely immersed. She didn't pay attention to the sudden slippage under her feet, and her brain, which had stopped turning, could not keep up with the reaction. Unexpectedly, it's like this. She fell straight down. Ji Henyun quickly reached out to help her. Even if she grabbed Tantan's arm quickly, her head was still caught off guard and hit the wall at an accurate angle. In an instant, Tantan felt a pain in the back of his head. The eyes are black. At the same time, there seemed to be a lot of strange images, constantly pouring into her mind. Chapter 43. Tantan had an accident, and Ji Henyun went crazy. Sugar. Ji Henyun's pupils trembled, and he immediately went to help Tantan in a hurry. He held Tantan tightly in his arms, stroked her head with one hand, and looked at her with great concern. How about it? Are you alright? Tantan's brain was still a little confused, and even her vision was blurred, but she was afraid that Ji Henyun would worry about her, so she tried to open her lips and said weakly, "No, it's okay." Looking at Ten Ten's appearance and hearing her voice, Ji Henyun of course realized that she was holding on. Ten Ten must be very painful. It's all his fault. He shouldn't have suddenly thought about that. If he had been more careful, paid more attention, reacted faster, and hugged his Ten Ten in time, Ten Ten would not have been bumped. He should have blocked Ten Ten with his own body. No matter where he stumbles, it's okay. He can carry it. But his sugar is so petite and fragile, so tender and fragile. Even there is blood stasis in his head. If it breaks down again, you will lose your memory again. What should they do if they forget the beauty of this pay? Right, the good memories are gone, and he can still cultivate them with Ten Ten. The most important thing is Ten Ten's body. How can she bear to knock on this little brain again and again? The more Ji Henyun thought about it, the more anxious he became. He immediately grabbed the bath towel and wiped Ten Ten dry, quickly helped her get dressed and carried her out. Then he immediately found Zhao Gang and asked him to call Lin Qingmian over. Zhao Gang, who didn't know why, came in and saw his fourth master holding Miss Ten Ten, whose hair was still wet, in his arms. He looked very nervous. While carefully blowing her hair, he asked her if it hurt or not. At this moment, Zhao Gang admitted that he was wrong. After all, the fourth master is still wet. This lonely man and widow are taking a bath room. Still, does it hurt? Could it be what happened? He can only say that their fourth master, too, it's fierce. No. As a considerate subordinate, it can't be said to be the fault of my master. It must be Miss Ten Ten, too fragile. However, this matter, it seems that it is not appropriate to ask Dr. Lin to come over, is it? However, Zhao Gang naturally had no room for questioning the order of the fourth master, and immediately went to call Lin Qingmian. At the same time, Lin Qingmian, who was guarding in front of the hospital bed and watched his fish girl obsessively, immediately greeted the whole family of Ji Henyun after receiving the phone call. His fish girl is still injured. Do you want him to see his beautiful woman who fell into the water? Isn't it not allowed to touch it? After a while, I have to scold him for not being worthy of his sugar, and he is not qualified to touch her hair. Lin Qingmian scolded. But Ji Henyun and Ten Ten had something to do. It was so urgent that he couldn't really sit idly by. However, because he was shown to Ten Ten, he called Lin Jiren, who happened to be working overtime in the hospital, very far-sightedly. At the same time, a business car was specially prepared to push his fish girl into the car with a hospital bed. He doesn't care. No matter where he goes, he must take the fish girl with him. This is the girl he caught, and he has to be responsible to the end. Ten Ten felt that there were countless pictures flying in his head. In the ring of bullets, she wore a unique gun around her waist, and the speed was so fast that she shot in the forest like a cheat. At the same time, she ran while swinging her gun, one shot at a time, extremely accurate and fierce. He even went directly behind the sniper with a flexible posture, and his white palm pointed directly to the man's head. The picture turned around. I came to a villa again. She stayed in a small and dark room, pushed the door out, and saw Kang Yingding's family of three talking and laughing in the living room, and she was like an out of one outsider. When they talked, she was silent and her head hung down, like an emotionless wood. At the same time, there are also Diao Diao, Baboon, and the faces of many people she didn't know kept flashing in her mind. Ten Ten felt that her brain hurt so much. These pictures are constantly stuffed into her mind, squeezing her head, swelling, soreness, numbness, confusion, and redundancy. She doesn't want to hurt so much. Ten Ten subconsciously resisted, slowly, lost consciousness, closed his eyes, and fainted. Ten Ten can never leave it. So how can you bear to fall asleep all the time? Don't wake up to see mine. Ten Ten, my Ten Ten, wake up. Okay. Chapter 44. Ten Ten restores memory. High energy. Ten Ten seemed to hear a voice echoing in his ear. Moreover, he calls himself Ten Ten. Although she didn't know why he called herself Ten Ten, she felt for no reason that this voice was very familiar, even very gentle. It's like a voice engraved in her bones that can make her heart warm and float. She tried to open her eyelids to see who had been calling her and making her sleep, but I feel that my eyelids seem to be heavy, and I can't open them. Suddenly, another voice sounded beside her. The fourth master is not good. Those killers came in advance. At this time, Zhao Gang had a bad intuition when he saw the state of the silent cold abyss. Obviously, the news they got at the beginning was that the killers planned to come until next week, and they have been preparing secretly for a long time. But why did it suddenly come forward? However, it was the critical time when Miss Ten Ten was in a coma and the fourth master did not rest for 3 days and 3 nights. Could it be? It was that there were traitors in their Gaoai villa, which revealed their situation, so the killers suddenly advanced. Top Gang only felt his eyelids jumping. In this situation, they are in the Bright Moon Villa. It's like facing a great enemy. If the fourth master doesn't hold on, they will really be finished. At this time, Ji Henyuan's big hand was still holding Tang Tang's slender little hand tightly. What about the killer? He just wants his sugar to wake up quickly. Lin Jiren said that if Tang Tang didn't wake up again, he was likely to become a vegetative person. If his sugar becomes a vegetative, how can he live? Just in time, it's good to kill him and let him die with Tang Tang and go underground to be a ghost couple. Realizing that Ji Henyuan had almost no business, Top Gang was so anxious. At this time, Lin Qingmian also pushed the fish girl in a wheelchair over. Top Gang looked at Lin Qingmian for help as if he had seen a savior. Lin Qingmian naturally knew what Top Gang meant and sighed helplessly. Who would have thought that as soon as something happened to Tang Tang, Ji Henyuan would become this virtue? The beard is shaggy, and it's about to die. A person who is usually so clean and obsessive-compulsive has not taken a shower for 3 days and hasn't changed clothes for 3 days. Now, Liao Villa is about to be surrounded. Everyone has to wait to die, but he doesn't care. A man with a love brain is simply confused. Lin Qingmian said with hatred, Ji Henyuan, your Tang Tang hasn't reached the point of death yet. You are so debilitated and sent her life away. Aren't you afraid that she will blame you when she wakes up? Have you ever asked her if she wanted to die like this? She is a girl who loves life so much. She is only 20 years old. Can you bear to let her die like this? Can you bear to see such a lovely and lively girl again? I can't hold her and kiss her again. You can wake up. Suddenly, Ji Henyuan, who had not responded, his eyelashes trembled. He raised his eyes full of red blood, and slowly looked at Lin Qingmian. Slowly, there is a glimmer of light. I can't, without her. That's right, Lin Qingmian said excitedly. Don't worry about meeting the enemy. Tang Tang, leave it to me. I promise to wake her up. Okay, really. Ji Henyuan's voice was hoarse, but there was a glimmer of light in his deep eyes. Lin Qingmian immediately said, I promise the happiness of me and my family. The next second, Ji Henyuan stood up. The whole person suddenly returned to his former aura, cold and powerful. Even if his eyes are seriously dark and blue under ML, it adds a little dignity to him. It's like the arrival of the lonely king of darkness. He clenched his fists, and the murderous intent appeared in his deep eyes. Damn it, the sound fell, and he strode away. After 3 days, he was finally willing to leave Tang Tang and this room. However, Lin Qingmian and Zhao had just breathed a sigh of relief, but they saw that Ji Henyuan actually stepped back. Lin Qingmian and Zhao Gang took a breath of cold air one after another. No way, the bitter words are in vain again. However, Ji Henyuan suddenly restrained his momentum, leaned devoutly to Tang's forehead, gently printed a kiss, and then whispered in her ear, Baby, be good, wait for me to come back. He is willing to confront the whole world, and he also wants to protect her in the ring of guns and bullets, as long as she is good. This time, Ji Henyuan strode away and never looked back. Top Gang quickly followed. The Great War is about to begin. Cousin, don't you still have to check and change the medicine for Yu? Lin Jiren looked at Lin Qingmian and said thoughtfully, Tang, leave it to me first. But, Lin Qingmian hesitated a little. Don't worry, can't you believe me? Lin Jiren gave him a soothing look. Tang and I have known each other for so long, and we have been together for a long time. During this period, I also tried my best to treat her, and I wish she could recover soon. Besides, you and Yu are next door. If I have something to do, I can call you immediately. Don't delay Yu's injury. Lin Qingmian looked down at the bandage on Yu's body, and nodded. Well, call me immediately if you have anything to do. I'll come as soon as I go. Lin Qingmian walked to the door and did not forget to tell him, it's very dangerous outside. Don't leave this room. Lin Jiren smiled and got to know his cousin. With a click, the door closed, and Lin Qingmian pushed the fish girl away. At the moment of closing the door, Lin Jiren's face suddenly changed. She twisted her eyes and looked at Tang Tang on the bed, and her finger joints clicked on her side. Tang Yao, you didn't expect that one day you would fall on my head. Oh, it's worthy of me planning for so long, and I finally got the opportunity. Do you know, this group of killers is the news I revealed, so they will come in advance. It was me who quietly took the fish girl's mobile phone and sent the message. Lin Jiren suddenly burst into laughter. Even if Ji Henyuan investigates it afterwards, it will only find out that Miss Phi SH is a traitor. If the news is revealed, who can find out on me? As for you, you are destined to die today, in this room. But they still think it's the killer's hand that moves. After a while, I will pretend that I was seriously injured to save you. Do you think Ji Henyun will be grateful to me? Do you feel sorry for me? Then fall in love with me. Your current position, the bed you are lying on, will it be all my Lin Jirens? Hehehehe. Lin Jiren smiled twistedly and arrogantly, and looked at Ten Ten with ferocious eyes. Sometimes, I admire my brain to come up with such a seamless plan. Lin Jiren slowly approached Ten Ten. Looking at Ten Ten lying motionless on the bed, she was very proud. Tang Gao, aren't you usually capable? One mouth is so good at cursing, and the slap is like a slap. Why is it so fragile and lifeless now? Your slender little neck. How do I think my hand can break your neck as long as you twist it so gently? Oh no. Lin Jiren stretched out her hand close to Ten Ten's neck, and suddenly took it back, muttering with a distorted expression. I can't break your neck. It's too cheap for you to die. I want to blame the hot witch. I heard that the hot-handed witch likes to break other people's heavenly spirit covers the most. Otherwise, I will also smash your heavenly spirit cover with a hammer and let you die violently. The next second, Lin Jiren couldn't wait to open her medicine box. There is a hammer in it. She picked up the hammer without hesitation. Suddenly raised her arms, and made a gesture to hit Ten Ten's head fiercely. However, at the moment when the hammer was about to approach Ten Ten's head, Ten Ten, who had been asleep all the time, suddenly opened his eyes. In those eyes, there was no innocent and pure eyes in the past. Instead, they were endlessly cruel, cold and murderous. It seems that a look can kill people. Lin Jiren was suddenly frightened and his hand stiffened for a moment, but he reacted quickly. He bit his teeth and still smashed at Ten Ten very firmly and fiercely. However, Ten Ten reacts faster. She suddenly stretched out her hand and grabbed Lin Jiren's wrist directly. Click, click. It's the sound of bones breaking. Lin Jiren suddenly screamed in pain. However, Ten Ten looked over with a fierce look, and his tone was extremely cold. Did I ask you to call? Lin Jiren was so scared that she stopped talking, but her face was pale in pain and she was sweating coldly. She looked at Ten Ten in horror, and her eyes were full of incredible. At this moment, she felt that Tang Jiaojiao seemed to have changed. It's like a female killer. Oh, Ten Ten sneered and glanced at Lin Jiren. She naturally saw the fear and shock in Lin Jiren's eyes. It's just that she doesn't like this kind of dog thief to be too entangled. She thinks it's a waste of time to talk nonsense with her. Just kill it. So, she turned over and looked at Lin Jiren contemptuously, and her look. It was very domineering. How can you, and know that the hot-handed witch not only likes to break people, I also like it. The next second, Ten Ten suddenly pinched Lin Jiren's jaw, and her slightly narrowed eyes were full of cold chills. The tongue of the person who breaks his mouth, the heart of the black-hearted man. Finally, 5 horses divide the corpse. Can't be alive. Chapter 45. Ten Ten is a witch, sweet and dashing. In the corner room on the 2nd floor, Lin Qingmian is meticulous while changing the medicine for the fish girl. The fish girl caught by Lin Qingmian was born with a pair of Dan Phoenix eyes and an eagle hook nose. Her appearance was particularly high class, but also very cold. The cold eyes swept away like this, which made people feel that she was not easy to get along with. He looked away and didn't dare to approach. However, in Lin Qingmian's opinion, everywhere is good looking, high class face, supermodel figure. It's so beautiful. It's really a good fate gift. And to him by God. At this time, he looked at the fish girl gently and raised his lips. Why you? I used special medicine for your injury, and it recovered very quickly. You should be able to go to the ground next week. The fish girl frowned, and her expressionless face was full of anger. I said, don't call me by this name. She is a killer on the road. Called such a woman's name, which has been spread out. How can she take orders in the future? Lin Qingmian is used to the strange and rejective appearance of the fish girl, although from the beginning, he expected that you could identify him at first sight like Ten Ten to Ji Henyun, and then rely on him extremely, and even fall in love with him. He had to extricate himself. Just thinking about it, you didn't lose her memory like Ten Ten. How could he be too demanding of her? He only needs to be patient, step by step. And step by step, one day, you will definitely fall in love with him. At that time, he will also take the fish to show his love in front of the silent cold abyss and stuff his big mouth full of dog food. At this time, Lin Qingmian, who was full of fighting spirit, did not care about the attitude of the fish girl. She was only immersed in her own fantasy, and then said, when the matter of Ji Henyun is over and we can live here, I will take you back to my home. My family is no worse than his. You are so optimistic. The cold voice of the fish girl directly interrupted Lin Qingmian and said ruthlessly, do you think this matter can still pass today? Lin Qingmian was stunned. Why not? Ji Henyun is very powerful. The girl in your room should be dying. According to the importance Ji Henyun attaches to the girl in bed, I'm afraid that if she dies, Ji Henyun will not want to live. So when she found that Lin Jiren had a ghost in her heart and quietly took her mobile phone to send out messages, she had no intention of stopping her at all. Sitting to collect the profit of a fisherman, empty gloves of 2 billion, why not do it? What's more, when the people on the road knew that she had urged Ji Henyun to die, her value should also be raised, right? At that time, she can also be one step closer to her lifelong ideal. However, Miss Fish's sudden words made Lin Qingmian stunned and frowned fiercely. 2 seconds later, his heart suddenly clicked and he looked at the fish girl incredulously. You mean, Lin Jiren? The fish girl interrupted Lin Qingmian impatiently again, frowned and said impatiently, I don't know what's in my mind. Can't you see a snake and scorpion woman with a belly full of bad water? She didn't know what water got into her mind. She suddenly reminded this stupid man, it's time to delay him in this room. Wait until the woman's bones are dead before letting him go. By the way, inform Ji Henyun that his woman is dead, and he can also go to death, so that 2 billion will fall into her hands steadily. However, she thought about it again. It's been several minutes. Even if she reveals it to Lin Qingmian, it should be fine. That woman is probably dead. If it's a big deal, she will make up a few more. The next second, Lin Qing pushed the fish girl up and rushed to Tan Tan's room. With a bang, the door was pushed open by him. However, the eye-catching scene almost cracked his facial expression. Even the fish girl, who has always been cold and expressionless, has. Her pupils trembled. Tan Tan's field was extremely powerful. Sitting on the chair, she crossed her legs and swayed her toes, with a careless face. However, at a glance, people feel that their hearts tremble, and their knees can't help but want to bend down. And on the ground, there is a red pool of blood. In the pool of blood, there is a woman in the back. This woman, exactly, Lin Jiren. Lin Qing struggled for a long time before she recovered, and stiffly turned her head to, oh, look at the fish girl. Even the voice of the outlet stuttered. Fish, for, why, what I told you, no, different, 问号. However, the fish girl's pupils were still trembling, as if she was shaking all over. She just stared at Tan Tan and couldn't say a word. Lin Qingmian turned his head stiffly to look at Tan Tan and stated, she, what's wrong with her? Tan Tan shook his toes and slowly looked at Lin Qingmian. The smile on her face still seemed to be innocent, but the bottom of the crescent moon seemed to have 3 parts of evil spirit and recklessness. She tilted her head innocently and asked back, damn it, isn't she? At the moment when Tan Tan's sound fell, Lin Qingmian had not yet reacted. The fish girl next to him suddenly fell from the wheelchair with a poof and knelt directly on the ground. She looked at Tan Tan with excitement, and her voice was trembling. You, yes, it's you. SHH. Tan Tan's slender fingers pressed against her arm, lips and blinked innocently. Don't get excited, little beauty. She stared straight at the fish girl, with a scattered smile in her eyes, tilted her head and asked back, do you know me? I? The fish girl was so excited that I couldn't say a complete sentence. She only looked at Tan Tan with admiration and enthusiasm, and even trembled all over, just like people in a long drought suddenly meet sweet rain, or poor people seek one-eyed bodhisattva coming. At this moment, Lin Qingmian was puzzled and very unhappy. He takes care of Yu every day from morning to night, and also reveals from time to time how good his family is and how strong his medical skills are. But where is the fish? I have never seen him in his eyes. The worship and dependence he wants are not at all. But what about now? Yu's adoring eyes? Why did you suddenly give Tan Tan? Did she forget that it was Tan Tan who beat her into what she is now? He quickly reached out to help the fish girl, and then said so, RLY. Yu, get up quickly. She beat you like this. Why do you kneel to her? However, Yu suddenly opened Lin Qingmian's hand to hold her, and then stared at him viciously. You don't know anything. It's my honor for her to hit me. It's my glory to kneel down to her. Lin Qingmian, 问号. He stammered excitedly to Tan Tan, and scolded him to speak completely. Looking at Tan Tan is worship and joy, and looking at him is dislike and contempt. Why is it always him who is hurt? Poof. Tan Tan couldn't age, up laughing, and her white cough shook with the smile. She turned her head and began to carefully look at the girl kneeling towards her in front of her. Suddenly, she thought of something, and a smile flashed in her eyes. She licked her lips happily and asked, are you Jiu? Suddenly, the fish girl's pupils trembled violently again, and she looked at Tan Tan with extreme excitement. Do you know me? Tan Tan looked like this, leaning on the back of the chair carelessly, tilting her head and smiling. No, a little. One of her admirers. After all, this person, among her many admirers, can be called the fanatical type of illegitimate food. Suddenly, Jiu's eyes were red with excitement. She will never shed a tear in her life, even if she is injured and bleeding, even if she is on the verge of death. But now, knowing that her idol knew her name, at this moment, she burst into tears. It's all her fault. She didn't recognize the idol at the beginning and fought with the idol in a rebellious way. Fortunately, the idol's strength was far superior to her, beating her all over her body, and the idol himself did not hurt a single hair. Sure enough, this is the god she worships, the strongest king among all the girls in the world, who is not inferior to any man's killer Mulan. She is the founder of the Star and Moon Alliance. Her name alone is dismaying. A hot witch. Suddenly, Ten Ten's auricle muff ebbed slightly. The sound outside penetrated into her ears. She frowned slightly and asked, "What's going on outside?" At this time, Jin Wang was even more panicked, afraid that he would cause trouble to his idol, so he quickly reported it. Many people gathered in the killer world to besiege Gaoyao Villa. Their purpose was to take the life of Ji Henyuan. The sound fell, and Ten Ten stood up suddenly. The whole person bursts with momentum, like the arrival of a witch in the dark night. Chapter 46 Ten Ten. She saves her husband. Ji Henyuan is my man. Outside the Bright Moon Villa, a large number of killers gathered and surrounded the Bright Moon Villa. Ji Henyuan stood on the wall next to the gate of Gaoyao Villa, overlooking a group of people. He is dressed in black and cold-hearted. Even if his eyes are blue and his beard is shaggy at this moment, he can't hide his powerful aura like an emperor. He swept at everyone present contemptuously, and his tone was cold and domineering. I only remind you all, there, now, get out of here immediately. Hoof. A man in a coquettish red silky shirt sneered disdainfully, and then suddenly jumped on his peacock truck and looked at Ji Henyuan with a smile. Master Ji, there are so many of us today. Do you think you still have a chance of winning? How dare you talk harshly to us? He waved his hand and flicked off the fan with a red wooden handle in his hand, which was printed with 4 words. Lonely Angelica. He shook his fan and laughed fiercely, but his seemingly calm eyes contained fierce murderous intent. Why don't you surrender now? We can still show mercy and give you a whole corpse. What he said is extremely ostentatious. Suddenly, he welcomed the annexation of a group of killers behind him. Lonely Angelica said, "Well, Master Jisi, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will only be no bones left. Not to mention that so many of us masters have surrounded you. There are dozens of people in a villa. How can you resist? What's more, we have found out that the people of the Star and Moon Alliance have appeared nearby, and the hot witch must have come over. There is a hot witch here. Today is your death date." Suddenly, a silver bell-like girl's laughter suddenly seemed to come from the air and penetrated into everyone's ears. The sound of laughter is crisp, but when you listen carefully, it seems to have 3 parts of strangeness, like a life-threatening melody. It's creepy all of a sudden. In an instant, someone reacted. Yes, it's the voice of the hot witch. The hot witch is really coming. Sure enough, she won't let go of this 3 billion. The killers suddenly became restless and circled around with high expectation and excitement. After all, for their killer world, the hot witch is the most famous existence. Men have cold-faced Shura, and women have hot-handed witches. These 2 are the kings that no one can shake. It's the ideal benchmark that everyone is looking forward to becoming. At the same time, the lonely Angelica standing on the peacock truck, with a smiling expression, suddenly became full of glory. His dark eyes seemed to have a sudden light. He looked around expectantly, and even shouted directly, "Witch, witch, why haven't you come to see me for so long? Do you know that I miss you?" At this moment, a figure suddenly jumped down from upstairs. She was dressed in red, as light as a flying elf. Her posture was flexible and slender, and she was so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off it. But when people were attracted by her posture and wanted to find out her peerless face, they found that she was wearing an extremely terrifying red mask on her face. It makes people feel creepy and unconsciously afraid just by looking at it. A group of killers were suddenly shocked. "Witch, it's really a witch." Even the devout believers of hot witches unconsciously knelt on the ground. "Witch, you are here. We will win today. Witch, kill the silent coal, the abyss. Sambian, that's yours. Witch, you have caught the cold abyss with your hand and lifted his heavenly cover. In the future, your prestige on the top will definitely be more prominent. Cold-faced Shura will also be trampled by you." Suddenly, the killers were furious, and even began to shout at the same time, "Kill him, kill him, kill him." However, suddenly, the spicy witch's slender index finger suddenly pressed against her red lips and let out a soft hush. Everyone suddenly calmed down. At his time, she stood on the wall on the other side of the gate corresponding to the Ji Henyuan, with red clothes flying and powerful momentum. She suddenly raised the corners of her lips, and the mask revealed her red lips, and the upward angle was 3 parts of recklessness and arrogance. Suddenly, She tilted her head and said as if she was very innocent. Do I agree with you to kill him? Suddenly, all the killers were stunned. Even the Jihenyuan, who was standing on the wall on the other side of the gate, was stunned. At the same time, he couldn't help turning his head and looking at the hot witch. In his sight, she was dressed in red and was very beautiful. She seemed to play innocently on tiptoe and kick the glass fragments on the wall, but the whole person seemed to have in it recklessness and arrogance. But this voice, the witch, lonely Angelica frowned at the hot witch and asked, "What do you mean by this sentence?" Suddenly, an irritable killer asked excitedly, "Witch, you don't want to take us away. You swallow the billion by yourself, do you? Witch, we all know that you love money, but you don't live like this, do you? You have some billion in this order. Why take away our billion of our little minions? You leave us some way to live. You are like this. It will arouse public anger. We have a lot of people today, but we won't be afraid of you. Shut up for me." Lonely Angelica suddenly turned around and roared, which shocked everyone. His eyes full of cold and murderous intent shot out and gritted his teeth and said, "Who dares to touch her? I want his life." Suddenly, no one dared to speak. Everyone on the road knows that Lonely Angelica is the leaking dog of the hot witch. At this time, if Lonely Angelica and the hot witch join hands, the 5 billion will really not be their turn. In the quiet and tense atmosphere, suddenly, the hot witch smiled crisply. It was obviously a sweet voice, but it gave people goosebumps for no reason. She played with her fingers carelessly and seemed to say casually, "Piggy, do you need your help?" When the sound fell, she suddenly raised her eyes. Since her murderous eyes suddenly shone away, and the tone he said was extremely terrifying. "If anyone wants to go against me, stand up for me immediately. On this road, except for the cold-faced Shura, my hot-handed witch has never been afraid of anyone. If you want to die, let the horse come here." She is full of murderous intent, and the horror mask is even more heart-trembling, and her momentum is so powerful that it is like the queen of the dark night. Suddenly, the killers were so scared that their backs were numb and their faces turned pale. How dare they provoke the hot witch? It's just to die. The hot-handed witch is simply a sweet and soft voice. On the surface, it looks innocent and harmless, but in fact, it is a cruel and hot-handed and can lift the lid of people's spirits. Seeing the familiar domineering hot-handed witch, Lonely Angelica smiled, shook the fan in his hand, and looked at her gently. "Witch, you are still the stinky virtue. No matter how rich you are, you still love money like life. Okay, when the Jihenyuan is solved, you can embezzle the billion, and I will personally pay 1 billion to share it with my brothers. Do you think it's okay?" He naturally spoils the person he likes unconditionally. However, the hot witch interrupted him directly. "Who asked you to touch him?" "I said, my people, without my permission. Who dares to try it?" In an instant, the expression of Lonely Angelica froze. At the same time, the cold abyss also froze. Chapter 47. Jihenyuan hugged Tang Tang in his arms again. Jihenyuan stood on the wall and looked sideways at the spicy witch. In his deep eyes, his emotions were shaken, as if the dark sea suddenly sprinkled with a little starlight. He looked at the hot witch incredulously, as if he wanted to see the real face under her mask through her mask. However, the Lonely Angelica was stunned for a moment, and suddenly he was not happy. He closed the fan in his hand, raised his eyebrows, and looked at the hot witch unhappily. "Witch, what do you mean?" The hot-handed witch is obviously impatient. She rubbed her eyebrows with her slender fingers. "How many times do you want me to say it again?" She squinted at the Lonely Angelica again, and at the same time swept to everyone and said loudly, "I repeat it for the last time. Jihenyuan, he is my hot witch. Whoever pulls out the person who wants to kill him behind the scenes, I, the hot witch, will give 1 billion in both hands. I spent 5 billion yuan to buy the life of the lonely abyss." The domineering voice was majestic and shocked everyone. Everyone was stunned one after another. The hot-handed witch is famous for loving money as life, and even regards money as more important than life. But now, you are willing to spend 2 billion yuan to buy Jihenyuan. Even just pull out the people behind the scene is who want to kill Jihenyuan. In an instant, everyone reacted one after another. Is it possible? Does the hot witch like the silence? So, America saves the hero and is willing to spend a lot of money to protect him. Everyone looked at Jihenyuan again. "I don't know." His dignified fourth master was entangled by the hot witch, a female demon head. What kind of psychological activity should it be? If he accepts the 5 billion of the hot hand witch to buy his life, in the future, he can be held by the hot hand witch, with the cruel perverted virtue of the hot hand witch. Maybe, candle, whip, iron chain, cage, shoot. Is it also a common thing? Hiss. Someone took a deep breath of cold air because of his brain tonic. "I don't know what it should be like when Tang Tang GCI was reduced to a plaything under the witch. Why the more I think about it, the more I feel that the picture is still a little exciting. I don't know, would the witch like to broadcast live? Are willing to spend money to reward on demand. However, everyone is constantly looking at the lonely cold abyss and the spicy witch because of their own brain supplements. When all kinds of YY eat melons, the lonely Angelica's face is obviously not very good. He was originally born white, but because of his unrestrained personality, Teo whose eyes were always full of evil smiles, and his whole body was stained with slum. But now, the smile in his eyes has disappeared, and there is no sly SP. I read around him. On the contrary, the whole person is like a layer of haze. He looked at the hot witch with deep eyes and asked in a low voice, "Witch, are you serious?" The hot-handed witch lightly raised her eyes. When did I not take it seriously? She always asks for credibility when she talks and does things. If she says it, it will be done. Although when recovering memory, the memory of amnesia during this period is also constantly drilled into the brain. At the thought of herself becoming so soft and delicate, she had been clinging to the quiet cold abyss, shouting one by one. She was too ashamed to wake up at that time. I'd rather not recover my memory. She is a hot-handed witch. How could she? When she loses her memory, she will become such a who can only spoil and play tricks. Sugar. Even the intimate contact with him is completely not rejected. Even also take the initiative. However, when she thought of this period, Ihenuan's care for her was completely fake. What's more, when she fell off the cliff into the lake and almost died due to some accident, it was also the cold abyss that saved her. Therefore, today, Ihenuan is facing such a dilemma. She has no reason not to save him. Just think that she has returned his life. However, lonely Angelica doesn't know the hidden feelings in it. All he knew was that the spicy witch disappeared for a period of time for no reason. After she finally appeared, she thought. Then he fell in love with Ihenuan. What's good about this old man with an ice face? How can you be worthy of a witch? What on earth did the witch like about him? Lonely Angelica pinched the palm of his hand and looked at the silent abyss with great hostility. "Zisai, you are a dignified 7-foot man and a famous domineering president. At this time, you have to rely on a girl to stand up for you. Don't you panic." Lonely Angelica sneered coldly, waved the fan again, and said cruelly, "If I were you, I would rather die so bravely today than bear the name of a soft man who relies on women for the second half of my life." In an instant, the air condensed for a few seconds. At this moment, the atmosphere is very tense, and it is particularly weird. Even, it is stained with a strong sour taste. I don't know when the sun disappeared, and the thick clouds overlapped layer by layer, depressing and cramped. The sultry summer breeze mixed with the summer heat blew, and the air was mixed with wetness, which seemed to be the prelude to the storm. However, only Ihenuan opened his lips and said, "I'm just a soft-hearted man who loves to be her, and I'm willing to be her skirt minister." So what? When the sound fell, Ihenuan stepped over the wall, and jumped towards the hot-handed witch. His tall figure flexibly crossed the gate and stopped directly in front of the hot witch. His deep eyes were full of warmth, and he looked at her persistently. The murderous intent is all over, and the gentleness is revealed. "Baby," he said in a low voice, "Billion, you bought my life. In the future, in this life, I will only belong to you." He doesn't care whether she is a soft and cute little girl or a ruthless witch. He only knows that she is Tang Gao Gao and his Tang Tang. It was the only girl who gave him warmth when he was so helpless that he wanted to leave the world when he was young. He loved her from the beginning, to now, to the future, until he died, and his body completely disappeared from the world. But his soul would still not forget to love her. In an instant, the hot witch felt that her heart trembled. She quickly lowered her eyes, and her eyelashes couldn't stop shaking. She felt. She didn't dare to look directly into Ihenuan's eyes. On the one hand, I feel guilty. On the other hand, as soon as I saw him, I thought of getting along with him during this period and felt ashamed. She is a hot witch who gallow. P.S. in the killer world. Now she is called so gently. Baby, my heart is about to cry. At the same time, more importantly, his eyes are with fatal attraction. It's like there's a whirlpool. If you take a closer look, you can suck people in, completely. Let your heart beat unstoppably, boiling. The next second, Ihenuan suddenly picked up the hot witch and fished her tightly into his arms. The hot-handed witch was suddenly picked up, and the subconscious reaction was not to fall over the shoulder and knock the person down, but, very familiar, very natural, stretched out her hands, wrapped around the neck of the silent cold abyss, which, lonely Angelica went crazy directly. He suddenly jumped up, and the fan in his hand pointed directly to the throat of Ihenuan. "You son of a bitch, let her go. In front of him, she shamelessly shouted to be her skirt minister. He even called her baby. Now, I can't believe I'm still holding her. The witch is usually most annoyed by others touching her. No one can have close physical contact with her. Even he has loved her for so many years. But he can't. This lonely abyss, why does he rely on? On what basis? He is going to kill him. Chapter 48. Ji Henyun begged Tang not to leave him. Ji Henyun held the hot-handed witch and jumped on the wall. Lonely Angelica kept chasing behind, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. A group of killers have been completely stunned. Today, what's going on? The matter has changed from killing the fourth master to taking the money. Two men robbed one woman together. TSK. This melon is a little big. The hot witch bought the fourth master of silence with 5 billion yuan, and the fourth master of silence was willing to be a minister under the witch's skirt. Lonely Angelica doesn't want the witch to be taken away, and vows to kill the fourth master of silence to take back the love in his heart. It's true. It's as powerful as possible. If there is also a fourth on-page headline hot list in the killer world, the entry of the dominant list during this period must be like this. Radar, problem. ZHCN, B, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 Spicy Witch 5 billion bought the fourth master of silence radar, problem. ZHCN, B 238, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 The fourth master of silence is crazy and moved radar, problem. ZHCN, B 238, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 The fourth master of silence is soft rice and hard to eat radar, problem. ZHCN, B 238, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 Lonely Angelica is jealous and crazy radar, problem. ZHCN, B 238, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 Two men serve one woman together, radar, problem. ZHCN, B 238, Prom, ZHCN, Linfree, Female, Gryphon, Premium, 播放 D'Angelo 的歌 Why can't girls have to? 问号 At the same time, on a big tree, 雕雕 leisurely swayed her cuff, with a dog's tail grass in her mouth, hooked her lips and said, Fortunately, we arrived in time and sent clothes and masks to our boss. Otherwise, how could our boss just be on time, make a stunning appearance, and then spend 5 billion yuan to save the hero? The flirtatious GCI's heart trembles, but she can't do it. TSK. Diao Diao's eyes have been following the lonely cold abyss and the witch, sighing. It seems that the fourth master of the silent must be more unable to extricate himself from our boss. In the future, I'm afraid that all the property of the fourth master will have to be taken away by our old man who loves wealth like life to our star and moon alliance. Are you sure? The baboon looked at the lonely Angelica with scarlet eyes and went crazy to kill the fourth master, and only felt that things were not good. Won the silent fourth master and lost to lonely Angelica. Go. Diao Diao suddenly spit out the dogtail grass in his mouth, squinted slightly and said, Everyone is responsible for the highness of the boss. She loves to fall in love with the boss. Shy face nestled in the arms of the fourth master of silence. The dignified witch becomes soft and pitiful for love. Isn't this love? The sugar couple, she, a CP fan, vows to protect her with her whole life. What's more, she is too much looking forward to seeing that GCI's wealth have been cheated by their boss. When the sound fell, Diao Diao took the lead in jumping down from the tree, and the baboon immediately followed. The two fell precisely beside the lonely Angelica, and one of them grabbed his arm. Suddenly, the lonely Angelica was completely unmoved. He roared with red eyes, Let go of me. Didn't you see that someone defiled your boss? Diao Diao kindly patted the lonely Angelica's arm. Brother Hui, why didn't you think that maybe our boss was voluntary? In an instant, the lonely Angelica was stunned. He looked up. She didn't struggle in Ji Henyuan's arms. On the contrary, she hugged his neck tightly and depended on him. It's like a soft and cute kitten, sticking to her favorite person. In an instant, the lonely Angelica felt a strong astringency lingering in my chest. It turns out that the witch looks like this in front of the person she likes. No wonder. He has never seen it, and he has never had it, just because what she likes has always been someone else. At this time, Ji Henyuan jumped off the wall with the hot witch in his arms, strode in the courtyard, and left their sight. Lonely Angelica withdrew his gaze in despair, and his whole body revealed an indescribable decadence. It seems that the lonely Angelica, which used to be fearless of heaven and earth, did whatever it wanted, suddenly disappeared, because his heart is empty. Diao Diao let go of the lonely Angelica, and then swept to all the killers, converging and suddenly squinted slightly, bursting with momentum, and said loudly, Brothers, everyone has seen the current situation. Master Jisi, you are our boss now. As we all know, those of our Star and Moon Alliance, whoever dares to move, then let go. Let's see what the end is. The baboon said in a simple way, try it and you will die. Diao Diao continued to say loudly, now, please go to the person behind the scenes who wants to kill the fourth master of silence. If it can be pulled out smoothly, our witch will offer you 5 billion. Do what you say. Alright, that's all. Let's leave the Bright Moon Villa and fight for the 5 billion. Diao Diao's words were like a pyramid scheme organization beating chicken blood. Suddenly, the killers were encouraged with blood. After running alone, everyone accelerated to leave one after another. 5 billion. Roll it up. Get out of the person behind the scenes. In the villa, Ji Henyun wants to hold the witch back to the room. That witch pulled the clothes on his chest with a little embarrassment, and then said, your room should be full of blood. Blood. Ji Henyun frowned. What kind of blood? Suddenly, he put her down in a second and looked all over her body with his extremely anxious hands. Tang Tang, are you alright? Where did you get hurt? Does it hurt? Does it feel uncomfortable? Seeing the man in front of him who cares so much about him, and his extremely familiar words. At this moment, she felt a strange feeling in her heart. She is the hot witch of the Star and Moon Alliance, and she is a dismaying and cruel existence on the road. But she is also the second lady of the Tang family, Tang Geojiu, a non-controversial family in the capital. Illegitimate daughter, she has been timid and silent since she was a child, and has been ignored or despised by everyone. But now, in the eyes of Ji Henyun, she is just a sugar, a girl who was picked up by him and carefully taken care of and put all his tenderness and love into her. Even if she knew before that she was Tang Geojiu, who was humble and ordinary, even if she had now lost her best, let him K. Now that she was a hot witch with blood on her hands, but he didn't have any dislike, regret, disgust, still treated her as before. It's like she is his favorite treasure. In his eyes, maybe she is just sugar, the girl whose heart and eyes are full of him. Silent cold abyss. Tang Tang suddenly shouted. However, the Ji Henyun in front of her was suddenly stunned. Don't say it first. He lowered his eyes, and his whole body was suddenly extremely nervous and scared. The eyelashes are even shaking. Gee, it's like knowing what you're going to lose, but you don't want to face it. Tang Tang. Ji Henyun put his hands on his side at a loss, and suddenly raised his eyes to look at Tang Tang. His voice was extremely low and humble, as if it contained the saddest note in the world. Don't leave me, okay? In an instant, Tang Tang felt that his heart was stabbed, and the fine pain spread. He in front of her, such a domineering and fierce person in really. Now, his pupils are red. He is humble, afraid, even begging her in a low voice. Chapter 49. Tang Tang calls him Brother Yuan again. Looking at the iron-boned man in front of me, I blushed. The humble appearance of his eyes. At this moment, it was difficult for Tang Tang to say what the sour and astringent feeling in his heart was. All I know is that my former self would never be like this. Seeing that Tang Tang didn't respond at all, his emotions surged violently in the deep eyes of T. His silent cold abyss, and he suddenly hugged Tang Tang. He held her very tightly, as if to embed her in his body and combine them into one. In this way, she will never leave him again. Tang Tang. Ji Henyun's whole body seemed to tremble. He was attached to Tang Tang's ear, in a low voice, full of strong love, and muttered, my sugar, I love you so much. No matter what status you have, I will continue to love you very firmly. I can't live without you. You know, I can't live without you. Slowly, the nasal voice of Ji Henyun became stronger, and even the voice of the other was trembling. I have liked Tang Heo for a long time. You are Tang Heo, and you are the girl I have been quietly in my heart. At that time, I didn't dare to come forward. I realized that I didn't deserve it, for fear of disturbing you. But now, God has given me this opportunity to come to me. How can I be willing to give up? Tang Tang, don't leave me, okay? If you don't want me, I'll go crazy. 感叹号 Thinking that Tang Tang doesn't want him, he just wants to destroy the whole world. He wants to build a cage with his own hands and put his sugar in it so that she can never leave him again. Feeling the strong and persistent love of Ji Henyun coming to his face, Tang Tang not only felt his heart numb, but also suffocated. At this moment, Tang Tang realized something. That is, she fell into the hands of the fourth master of silence. Such a paranoid and crazy man, once he falls in love, he will never give up in his life. She dares to assert that if she dares to leave him, even if she chases her to the ends of the earth, he will definitely chase her back, and then break her legs and put her in a small dark room so that she can never leave him. Although, she is not so afraid, but, it seems, just now, she caught him and what she wanted to say was not, she was going to leave. She doesn't seem to even want to leave. feeling that Ji Henyun was still holding her crazily. Her whole body was even trembling. Ten Ten frowned slightly and thought about it. The problem seemed to be her name. If she still calls him like before, will he return to normal? After all, it's not a way to drive him crazy like this. The next second, Ten Ten suddenly opened his lips. Brother. In an instant, Ji Henyun was stunned. He really let go of Ten Ten and looked at her excitedly. Ten Ten, what do you call me? Ten Ten looked at him with bright eyes and said obediently, Brother Alien. Ji Henyun's pupils trembled, and his eyes were full of excitement and surging feelings. The next second, he suddenly leaned over. The overwhelming wind swept madly towards Ten Ten. His sugar still calls himself brother. His sugar will never leave his 感叹号 He thinks, want, she, print his symbol, number, completely, night. There is no sugar all over the body. Lily was lying on the bed and looked down to see WH. Ed was on his body. At this moment, his consciousness slowly returned to the cage, but he was a little confused. It's all, what happened? Unexpectedly, she clicked, and the door of the room was opened. Ji Henyun came in with fragrant food and looked at Ten Ten gently. At this time, he is no longer the decadent and humble appearance before, but a little in good spirits. Baby, you should be hungry, right? His voice was so spoiled that he went straight to the bedside. I brought your favo, right? Squirrel osmanthus, sweet and sour ribs, and some fried vegetables and shrimp and crab porridge. I helped you get up and eat. At this time, when he saw Ji Henyun, he recalled the absurd things that had happened in this room for just a few hours in his mind. Ten Ten realized that he was embarrassed and said, It doesn't matter, I just need to get up by myself. Hiss. As soon as he moved, Ten Ten found himself all over. 点算点同 Awesome. This, I feel, more than the gunshot and fist wound DS I have suffered, which makes people unable to adapt. However, she only insisted on climbing up alone, but completely forgot one thing. That's, now she, no, arrive, inch, a with. The sudden coolness made her stunned. The first reaction was to look at the silent cold abyss. Ji Henyun looked straight at her, his excited eyebrows raised, and the corners of his lips still had a naked smile. My baby, you are so beautiful. This great work is all his hard work. The red on the white porcelain, marks, mottled and broken, strange and beautiful. Suddenly, Ten Ten got into the quilt and covered himself. He slowed down for a few seconds in the dark quilt, and then shouted violently, My, close, close. What? Ji Henyun hooked his lips and smiled. Seeing that the little girl was so shy, he only felt more worried. Yuma. He rubbed Ten Ten's head through the quilt, and then got up to get his clothes. Alright, I've brought you the clothes. Ten Ten still didn't want to come out. He gritted his teeth and said, Throw it into the quilt. Hoof. Ji Henyun couldn't help laughing again. His baby is even cuter. Even the angry look of shame is so cute. He really loves her. Ji Henyun compromised and stuffed his skirt into the quilt. Ten Ten immediately grabbed it, and then bulged in the quilt and twisted it to put it on. 2 minutes later, the little head came out like a ripe red apple. She blinked when she saw the cold abyss. Why are you still sitting by the bed? Why don't you go to the table for dinner? Ji Henyun hooked his lips. If you are too sick and too lazy to move, you can eat in bed. Ten Ten's eyes suddenly lit up. Okay, can I eat in your bed? In fact, when she has nothing to do, she likes to stay in bed all day, except for the need to go to the toilet to wash. She can stay in bed for almost 20 hours a day. I can't help it. The bed is her warmest home. Fool. Ji Henyun scratched the tip of the sugar's nose and whispered, My bed is your bed. You can do whatever you want on it. It's just. Ji Henyun suddenly paused, but Ten Ten couldn't wait to get up and sit by the bed, looking at the colorful and fragrant food. Well, she has been hungry for a long time. However, as soon as she picked up her chopsticks, she heard the silence beside her continue to say coldly, After eating and drinking enough, there are some things. My sugar is okay, and work harder. Suddenly, the chopsticks picked up by Ten Ten were not picked up or lost. She paused for 2 seconds, and then stared at Ji Henyun in anger. You stinky man, you are a real dog. She didn't know why she was fascinated by the trick. Unexpectedly, she should have escaped in the chaos when she should have recovered her memory. Now, 感叹号 It's too late to repent. According to his posture, in the future, how sore is she? Chapter 50. The public in the court is very popular with me. After Ten Ten ate and drank enough in revenge on the bed of Ji Henyun, she took advantage of the moment when Ji Henyun was cleaning up the rice bowl and ran to the cloakroom. Then, he changed into a turtleneck undershirt and jeans, wrapped himself tightly, and rushed out of the bedroom again. Ji Henyun smiled helplessly and followed with dishes and chopsticks. Ten Ten, slow down and don't fall. The little girl recovered her memory, although she was still so cute. she was a little more wild after all. I didn't follow him so single-mindedly. However, this kind of sugar is more complete and flexible, isn't it? What's more, now that Tang Tang chooses to stay with him, it means that even if she recovers her memory, she still has him in her heart. In this case, day after day, getting along with her day and night, he will eventually tame her wildness one day, so that she willingly lies softly on his chest again, and call him Brother Alan, doesn't he? It seems that it is particularly exciting. Tang Tang slipped downstairs and found that the very people were still there. Diao Diao immediately whistled and looked at Tang Tang teasingly. Yo, boss, are you finally willing to come out of the room? TSK. Diao Diao squinted his eyes up and down at Tang Tang, with an expression that I had already seen, and joked. Baby, tell your boss how long it has been. The baboon immediately looked at his mobile phone and reported. It's been 6 hours. Wow, Diao Diao is a very magical wow, with exaggerated body language and expression. It's been a whole 6 hours. Diao, Yuan. Tang Tang almost gritted her teeth and shouted the full name of Diao Diao. Whenever the boss shouts his full name, Diao Diao knows that he can't make any more angry. However, seeing the boss's rare angry appearance, Diao Diao still thought, it's fun. Even if she has to take the risk of being lifted by the boss, she will persistently knock down the sugar-containing CP. Seeing the quiet cold abyss that followed the boss, he looked at him with his lips hooked. No wonder this silent fourth master has won the heart of their boss so deeply. It turns out that that's a good kung fu. Naturally, Ji Henyun also saw Diao Diao's eyes. He didn't say anything, but handed the dishes and chopsticks to the servant and cleaned his hands. Then, he sat directly beside Tang Tang and naturally hugged her into his arms. I couldn't help but bend the lonely Angelica that came back. As soon as I came in, I saw this scene. Suddenly, he was furious again. He trod in and cursed as he walked. It's so immoral in the public. As soon as Ji Henyun saw him, his whole body suddenly fell. My bright moonbiller, have you said that you are welcome to come in? He didn't forget that this lonely Angelica actually asked him if Tang Tang wanted him. His sugar, of course, can only think of him in the cold abyss. Don't think that if his name is stained with a word of silence, he can come to touch the edge. There is no door. You, 感叹号. Lonely Angelica blushed with anger and thick neck. The hot witches are all here. Why can't I come in? Witch, you say it yourself. Lonely Angelica looked at Tang Tang and persistently asked, can I stay here? At the same time, Ji Henyun also turned his head to look at Tang Tang in his arms. Obviously, they are also waiting for Tang Tang's answer. Suddenly, Tang Tang felt like he was being roasted on the stove. On the one hand, he is a friend who has been fighting side by side for more than 10 years. On the other hand, who spoils her, loves her and even has a skin relative, can also be regarded as a boyfriend. This, let Gigi leave, which makes her seem to forget her friends. If you don't let Gigi go, Brother Yuan will definitely be jealous again. Later at night, it was her who suffered. Tang Tang suddenly felt distressed. Adults really can't make a choice. The next second, she suddenly said weakly, how about you two stay and I'll go. Let the two of them fall in love with each other in the huge bright moon. Villa, love each other and kill each other. How wonderful it is to let her go to the 5 lakes and the 4 seas as a home. In an instant, Tang Tang felt that his plan was simply the smartest. She suddenly had confidence and raised her eyes to look at the lonely abyss and lonely Angelica. Suddenly, the little face froze. What's the expression of you two? Is my method not good? She pouted subconsciously and looked at Ji Henyun innocently and pitifully. It's like complaining, defending, and spoiling. This is her behavioral habit during the period of amnesia, and now it seems to be integrated with her. Tang Jiao, who was silent in the day, and the hot-handed witch who ruled the wind and clouds, gradually became a delicate, lovely and coquettish little girl because of the appearance of the silent cold abyss, or sweet milk candy. Tang Tang's reaction stunned lonely Angelica. Suddenly, a strong sense of loss surged towards him. So, the witch, is it true, falling in love with the silent abyss? He has never seen her look like this before. Delicate, coquettish, soft, even if they have known each other for more than 10 years. It turns out that she is so cute in front of the person she loves. It turned out that even though it had been 10 years, he had never known the real her. In an instant, the lonely Angelica felt that he had been completely defeated. After all, he can't have her in his life, even if he has used it for 10 years. At this moment, he felt as if he had consumed the courage and determination to love for the rest of his life. In the future, I'm afraid he won't be able to love anyone anymore. Suddenly, lonely Angelica pulled his mouth and smiled. Forget it. He looked at Tang Tang and deliberately mocked. Witch, look at your virtue now. you have turned into a coquettish and bully girl. Let me tell you, I don't like you anymore when I see you become like this. The cold eyes of the lonely abyss suddenly shined at the lonely Angelica. 大写 D. Oh, you deserve it. No one is allowed to stain half of his sugar. Cut. The lonely Angelica returned to its sly appearance, and directly sat next to the baboon and deliberately joked. I'm lonely, handsome, rich and high-ranking. What kind of woman do I want? Do you have to hang yourself on a tree? What's more, if you think about it carefully, I've always regarded witches as my brother. Yes, yes. Ten suddenly smiled. And I have always regarded you as my brother. Lonely Angelica. He was as sharp as Diao Diao. Naturally, he saw that lonely Angelica was holding on, and quickly changed the topic. By the way, boss, you recovered your memory this time because of my medicine, right? She looked at Ten and blackmailed. That's my heirloom. You took my medicine, and you must compensate me. She broke her fingers and said excitedly, how about half of the fourth master of silence? 2.5 billion. Ten suddenly came out of the arms of Jihenyuan like a fried kitten, staring at Diao Diao with a defensive face. 2.5 billion. Why don't you rob? I don't have money. Diao Diao looked shocked. Boss, how can you do this? You'd rather spend 2 billion to buy GCI, but my heirloom, you don't even want to spend 2.5 billion. You are too lustful to underestimate friends. I didn't take your medicine. Ten cursed. I'll give you back. She immediately rushed upstairs to get the medicine bottle. When she was about to throw it to Diao Diao, she suddenly thought of something. She glanced at Jihenyuan, stopped, protected the porcelain bottle in her hand, and then asked, by the way, can this medicine detoxify? Chapter 51. Okay, baby, I know you love me. Seeing the medicine bottle in Ten's hand that had not been touched, Diao Diao suddenly curled his lips in disappointment. The boss actually recovered his memory without eating. So what about her 2.5 billion? Suddenly, when he heard the boss ask if he could detoxify, Diao Diao's eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, 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 I heard that it can cure all diseases. Detoxification should not be out of the question, right? Diao Diao suddenly lit up hope again, and her eyes looked at Ten with bright eyes. Boss, what's up? Are you poisoned again? Eat quickly. It's okay if you eat it. Give me 2.5 billion yuan when you eat it. After all, when the thing reaches her boss's hand, it's hard to get it back, and only the money in your hand is the most reliable. When it comes to love of money, they are in the same vein as Star and Moon Alliance. Ten glanced at Diao Diao. Are you sure? She doesn't think this crazy money-wanting man is not so reliable. But this is about resolving the poison of the silence and cold abyss. If it's herself, it doesn't matter how she eats. Anyway, her body is resistant to it, and she has taken some special drugs. But the quiet cold abyss is different. His symptoms of toxic hair were too shocking, and now Lin Qingmian gave him the medicine to prevent toxic hair, and the side effects were too great. Suddenly, Ten looked at the lonely Angelica. Biggie, what about your family's brief words? Lonely Angelica lowered his eyes and played with the fan in his hand. What's the matter? Do you want to beg my brother again? He suddenly thought of something and looked at Ten nervously and worriedly. Which? Aren't you? Are you really poisoned again? But your body is not. Ten immediately interrupted him. No, it's not me. My body is fine. It's a Yuan brother. 大写 T. And Ten looked at Jihenyuan and said, his poison is very serious, and he is in danger of death at any time. Suddenly, the dark eyes of Jihenyuan lit up. It's like full of white moonlight. Just now, I heard Ten take the initiative to talk to lonely Angelica. When his jealousy was still brewing, he heard Ten caring about him. It turned out that he talked to lonely Angelica for himself. Therefore, in Ten's heart, his position should be far better than lonely Angelica, right? Suddenly, Jihenyuan was in a very beautiful mood. It's like eating candy, and the smile in his eyes is sweet. However, no matter how beautiful he is, how lonely Angelica is, how lost he is, it turns out, she is still for Jihenyuan. It seems that she really loves Jihenyuan so much. It turns out that the order of appearance in life is really important. Forget it. If she is happy, it will be fine. All he can do is to guard it silently. After all, he has no courage and energy to love more people in his life. Lonely Angelica pulled the corners of his lips and said inadvertently, in short, he has been running around the world. Recently, he seems to have gone to the war zone. People still don't know whether they are alive or not. I'll call him later and ask him to come back immediately. Lin Qingmian, who happened to push the fish over, suddenly rushed to the lonely Angelica excitedly when he heard the 3 words of Jianian. What? Do you have the phone number of the magic doctor? Do you still know where the magic doctor is? You know, in short, they are the mythical existence of the medical community. As long as the person he has treated, no matter how many doctors have sentenced him to death, he can pull him back from the brink of death, without exception. As long as he can still live, he will definitely live. He is a myth in the medical world, the idol and god of all their doctors from the bottom of their hearts. Seeing Lin Qi-mian rushing to the lonely Angelica, Yu was suddenly relieved. For the first time, this is the first time, Lin Qi-mian left a distance of 2 meters around her and pounced on others. She must seize this opportunity to get rid of Lin Qi-mian. So, Yu immediately said, his name is Jie Yangwei, and the magic doctor is Jie Yanzi. What do you think they have to do with? Lin Qi-mian opened his mouth. Omibit. Suddenly, Lin Qi-mian squatted directly in front of Jie Yangwei and hugged his thick age. It turned out to be the younger brother of the magic doctor. I'm in tears. In short, Jie Yangwei raised his eyes, and the corners of his lips hooked 3 parts of slum, and looked at Yu. Yu, what do you mean? My identity will explode if you say it. Yu said with a high-class face that didn't care. Anyway, everyone present knows it. In order to get rid of Lin Qi-mian, she can only sacrifice her words. Jie Yangwei waved the fan and looked at Lin Qi-mian who was pounced on him, and then at Yu, who was sitting in a wheelchair, which was particularly abnormal. Suddenly, I realized it and my eyes lit up. So that's it. The next second, he smiled and patted Lin Qi-mian's head. Good boy, go find Yu. I don't know where my brother is, but Yu knows. When the sound fell, Lin Qi-mian was stunned, and then he suddenly looked at Yu. Yu's eyelashes jumped and he looked at Jie Yangwei fiercely. Lonely Angelica, you are too dog. Jie Yangwei waved a fan and raised his lips and smiled each other. The next second, Lin Qi-mian suddenly rushed back to Yu. He even knelt directly in front of Yu and put his head on her lap. I knew it. Yu, you are the treasure given to me by God. God arranged for him to catch fish, and Yu can now help him know the magic doctor Jie Yanzi. Yu is simply his lucky treasure. Feeling this green head suddenly lying on his lap, she gritted her teeth and quickly pushed Lin Qi-mian. However, Lin Qi-mian just didn't want to leave, and directly wrapped the waist of Yu in a cruel way. He hugged Yu's waist tightly, still resting his head on her lap, and said bully, I don't care. I caught you, and you are already mine. You must take me to find the magic doctor. Otherwise, he will not come out for a long time. And Jie Yangwei, who has been watching the play, hooked his lips and said, otherwise, you will immediately deal with her and let her become your person completely. In short, this suddenly made Yu angry. Jane, words, return. Yu gritted his teeth and found that he usually talks little. At this time, he couldn't think of any sharp words to refute the short story. Then she was held tightly by Lin Qi-mian. She was still in a wheelchair and couldn't break free no matter how hard she struggled. Suddenly, Yu could only look at Tenten helplessly. Ideal. Yu had a high-class face with despair, and his eyes were about to droop. He said helplessly, can you help me? After receiving the help of his fanatic fan, Tenten stood up, strode over, and directly tied the green hair on Lin Qi-mian's head and dragged him out. It hurts. Lin Qi-mian was so painful that he had to let go of his hand, and then stared at Tenten. Tenten, what are you doing? Tenten crossed her arms and stared at him with big eyes. Did Yu agree that you would touch her? Lin Qi-mian was directly unconvinced and asked. As soon as you were picked up by Jie Yangwei, he hugged you. Do you agree? Tenten was directly subconsciously angry and blurted out, of course, I am willing. As soon as he said it, Tenten found that it was wrong. He suddenly held his mouth tightly and subconsciously looked at Jie Yangwei. He looked at her with a smile, and his eyes were very gentle. That excited facial expression seemed to say, okay, baby, I know you love me. Chapter 52. Jie Yangwei has no self-control over Tenten at all. Li laughing and making noise here. Diao didn't know where to find a laptop, and her slender fingers kept crackling on the keyboard. She did an extremely exaggerated red manicure with purple heart shaped in the middle of her fingers, but it did not affect the speed of her fingers flying on the keyboard at all. Suddenly, she raised her right hand and exclaimed, I found it. Suddenly, everyone was attracted by her and looked at her. He looked at Tenten excitedly and said excitedly, Big Boss, 大姐, I found the person behind the scenes who placed an order to buy the life of the fourth master of silence. Tenten's heart was stunned and asked, who is it? Diao said excitedly, it's Jie Senai, Jie Mingpeng. When the sound fell, Diao jumped up directly and jumped several times. Making a victory posture, he shouted yes several times, and then looked at Tenten with frantic eyes. Boss, 5 billion, is it mine? She stretched out her hands and held them in front of Tenten, and her hands were shaking with excitement. At the thought that she was about to become a $5 billion rich woman, the purple hair on her head was flying with her However, Ten slapped her hand with a snap. She crossed her legs carelessly, even wiped her hands with a wet wipe, and then took an apple and nibbled it elegantly. Diao Diao snatched the apple that Ten had just gnawed in his hand, looked at her persistently and asked, "Boss, what do you mean?" Ten blinked at Diao Diao. "Oh, you can't check it accurately. What's more, I have already guessed the candidate of Ji Mingpen." Diao Diao suddenly collapsed and said angrily, "You just want to rely on the debt. Your words don't count. You are stingy." Ten didn't care and snatched the apple from Diao Diao's hand and gnawed it. Then he explained slowly and logically, "Are you Ji Mingpen who guessed based on the IP address of the order?" Diao Diao was stunned from the bottom of his heart, but he still nodded reluctantly. "That's enough." Ten nibbled on the apple and said, "If it's really that simple, why should I release 5 billion directly? What can be found out with just an IP address? Can't our Star and Moon Alliance do its own? Or can't I?" Diao Diao suddenly frowned. "Boss, do you mean it's not Ji Mingpen? There is a bigger hidden love behind it." "Yes." Suddenly, with a bang, Ten smashed the apple kernel into the trash can and narrowed his eyes slightly. "However, since they want to pull Ji Ming NG out to caution the back to block the gun, why can't I follow the situation and clean up Ji Mingpen first? Just think of it as." Ten hooked her lips and smiled, with a cold smile in her eyes, which was having fun. The baboon immediately jumped out and said, Good. It should be fun. I want to sign up." Diao Diao also suddenly said angrily, "Matt, I want to join, too. I have to pull out the 5 billion. The baboon and Diao Diao did what they said, and immediately agreed that they will go to the Ji family together tomorrow, which made him upset. Ten was too lazy to participate in the drama plan of these two severely divided patients, and yawned twice in a row. "After eating enough, I feel a little sleepy." Unexpectedly, Ji Henyun has been paying attention to her dynamics and immediately asked in her ear, "Are you sleepy?" Ten nodded, a little. The sound fell, and Ten suddenly lost weight, and found that Ji Henyun had picked her up. And it's still the same as before. Particularly shy, shameful, dad-style hug. Ten suddenly became ashamed and embarrassed, in front of so many people. But in order not to fall down, she instinctively wrapped her legs around Ji Henyun's waist. Diao Diao immediately whistled and looked at the cold abyss to take Ten away. Seeing that the person was about to enter the room, she shouted and coaxed, "Ji Sai, you, be gentle. That's it. It took 6 hours. The life of my boss is important. Sugar shame. You have to be completely buried in the arms of the silent cold abyss and not come out." However, she is harmed. The shy little appearance aroused Ji Henyun's heart even more. Meaning, horse. At the same time, I want to be more friendly with Ten in front of everyone in public. Secret action, so that everyone knows that such a beautiful and cute girl is his. Putong. Ji Henyun threw her directly to low, soft bed. He leaned against her with deep eyes. "Entanglement." Mia looked at his Ten and said in a hoarse voice, "Baby, are you still Kong? Is it possible?" Ten immediately shook his head crazily and said in a soft voice, No. Ji Henyun frowned, "And still, does it hurt?" Ten immediately seized the opportunity and nodded desperately, Yes, it still hurts. It hurts very much. Let's sleep separately tonight." She grabbed the quilt and was about to climb to the other side of the bed. However, his slender ankle was directly grabbed by Ji Henyun. "Let me have a look." Suddenly, Ten felt that he was going crazy. She desperately said that she was in pain, but that's not what she meant. "Isn't this special meal counterproductive? I feel the coldness of the abyss." Palm, touch. After feeling it, Ten quickly tightened again. "Body," Zi said anxiously. No, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. Oh, the tail sound of the silent cold abyss picked up, stopped the action, and looked at Ten with a smile in his eyes. "Does it really not hurt?" "It's real. Really, it's more real than 1,000 gold." Ten quickly seized the opportunity to climb to the edge of the bed, thinking that he could sleep soundly. "I didn't think about it, and I was caught by the ankle and neck of fate by Ji Henyun." Then, he dragged her over again. Silent cold abyss hand support. Bed. In the deep eyes, there is a little starlight. Looking at Ten persistently and affectionately, he raised the corners of his eyes, and his hands gradually stroked Ten's fair face, bringing bursts of numbness, and the sound he said was even more damaging. "Since it doesn't hurt, then." Suddenly, Ten's pupils widened. Well, her unspoken voice was directly drowned out. Gusts of breeze blew out of the window, blowing away the clouds. The bright moon can be seen at a glance. The next day, Ten fell asleep directly to the sun. "When I woke up, I felt like my whole body was being taken out, empty, compared with the ring of bullets in the forest. It's even tiring to overturn an organization. Damn, she couldn't help cursing. Ji Henyun is so self-controlled. If it goes on like this, it's okay. However, Tang Tang was still cursing in her heart. But the man's voice suddenly sounded above her head, almost scaring her to death. Are you awake, baby? The automatic curtain was pulled open, and the sunlight came in. Only then did Tang Tang see the tall figure of Ji Henyun. Moreover, he looked at her with a smile, sat by the bed, and said gently, "Can I hold you up and wash up?" "Don't." Tang Tang immediately refused very firmly. This determination, just like Xiaoyanzi helped Siwei find Huang Emma, incomparable firmness. She is determined not to let Ji Henyun touch her anymore. "If we go together, bathroom, this dog man who has no self-control, must, 感叹号. Tang Tang found that he couldn't think about it anymore, and his face was about to burn, so he quickly got up by himself. Even if he found that he was so cool, he didn't have time to take care of it. He rushed into the bathroom as soon as he smoked. Then, leaning his back against the door, he realized, acid, pain, I have 2 grams. Seeing Tang Tang like this, Ji Henyun smiled helplessly. It seems that he scared the little girl. However, it can't be blamed on him, who made her so beautiful, so white, so sweet, made him simply. Suddenly, Ji Henyun felt that he quickly waved those in his mind. Draw, face, get up and go to the cloakroom. He wants to match Tang Tang with a beautiful dress in person, and then take her to Ji's house, blow up the field. Since she and her people want to make a big fuss, he let her go. Chapter 53. Tang Tang's one hand as he pleases. At noon, when the old house of the Ji family was having a happy meal, the housekeeper suddenly rushed in and crawled in, saying in horror, "Old lady, fourth master, he's back." Suddenly, the atmosphere in the restaurant suddenly froze. Ji Mingpeng immediately smashed the chopsticks in his hand. What did he do when he came back? Did we invite him to come? Ji Mingxiu turned the Buddha bit in his hand and said slowly, "If you don't invite yourself, there must be disaster. How dare he?" Ji Mingpeng immediately cursed. "Today, if he makes trouble like last time, I won't listen to you anymore. Just put up with him." Even since Ji Henyun dares to come uninvited, he will never let Ji Henyun leave the old house so easily. At this moment, the sound of leather shoes stepping on the slate gradually came. Everyone couldn't help looking up. I saw Ji Henyun, still holding the girl who seemed to be soft and cute but actually had a better temper than anyone else, and was strolling over. He was cold and extremely powerful, which made the servants along the way unconsciously take a few steps back. It's like the aura within 3 meters around him. Once he gets close, he will hurt people. However, he gently stroked the girl in his arms, and the tone he uttered was more spoiled and gentle that they had never seen or heard. "Baby, here we are. Are you tired? Are you thirsty? Are you hungry?" Tang Tang nested in the arms of Ji Henyun and said sullenly, "Seeing that they are all full, how can they be hungry?" Although her tone is still soft and sticky, her voice is not small. It immediately reached the ears of the mother and son of the silent family in the restaurant. Ji Mingpeng suddenly exploded. He patted the table and stole the table, stretched out his finger to point at Tang Tang, and cursed loudly. "Tang Jiaogao, what do you mean? Can you speak? Our Ji family has never said welcome to come here." Ji Henyun suddenly turned cold. "I don't know where my Tang Tang offended Ji Senai. She is a soft and weak little girl, but she has to face such a reprimand from you when you first come here. Does Ji Senai think that his reputation is too good recently? Do you mind adding one more? You?" 感叹号. Ji Mingpeng gritted his teeth in anger. He was poked in the spine by Ji Henyun again, and he felt that the top of his head was on fire. His reputation of Ji Mingpeng was not ruined by his Ji Henyun. He is so willing to mention it. However, he didn't expect that the rhetoric would continue to refute. But he only saw Tang Tang turn his head out to look at him and blink innocently. "Ji Senai, why do you react so much?" She suddenly lengthened her tone again, looking like He was suddenly enlightened. "You don't think I was talking about you just now, do you? But I'm talking about the big fish and meat on your table. I can't help it. Recently, Brother Yue always thinks I'm too thin and give me big fish and meat every day. I'm really tired of eating, so I say I'm full when I see it. The in my words are those of Bao Geitao, not the person I mean." It's okay for Tang Tang not to explain. After her explanation, the face of the Ji family changed. From them to them, it implies that they are not even human. Even, compare them to the big fish and meat on the table. Why, in the eyes of Ji Henyun and Tang Yao, their Ji family is the cutting board fish on their table waiting for them to eat. Of course, Mrs. Ji can't stand being so implied. "It's right," she said solemnly. "You usually talk to your sister more often, sister Yingying learns to be a daughter-in-law of a rich family. There are some etiquettes that you must know, which is also good for your own development in the future. On the surface, teaching Tang Tang is good for her, but in fact, isn't it implying that she is not polite and uneducated? Even compare Tang Yingying with her. However, Tang Tang did not explode directly as Mrs. Xi expected, which showed that she was uneducated and polite in her words. After all, Mrs. Xi mentioned Tang Yingying. It's just right in her arms. In the past, in the Tang family, because she was an illegitimate daughter, she would never compete with Zhao Xuefeng and Tang Yingying for anything. After all, no matter what she wants, she can get it by herself. On the contrary, in order to know what happened to her mother back then, she had to pretend to be an ignorant and obedient girl who was left to them, so as to stay in the Tang family to explore the truth of that year. After all, Tang Yuehu absolutely keeps a big secret. Unexpectedly, Zhao Zufen and Tang Geoio were so like snakes and scorpions. She has made it clear that she has no idea about Jiang Yu's. Tang Yingying just wants to marry him. However, the mother and daughter still suspected that she had different hearts. They were afraid that she would steal Tang Yingying's good marriage. They actually tricked her to Yan'an Mountain on the grounds of telling her mother and pushed her down directly. She also blamed herself for being too light on the enemy. At that time, she had just finished a task. She didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights, which can be said to be exhausted. It just so happens that she also needs to go to Yan'an Mountain. She has something important to do. I simply followed the mother and daughter's wishes and went with them to see what they were playing. What's more, even if she was pushed off the cliff, she didn't take it seriously. After all, she could save herself at any time. But coincidentally, when she tried to climb when the cliff-raised rock climbed directly, it was unlucky to be directly hit in the head by the big stone that fell on the edge of the cliff. Then her eyes went black, and she fell straight into the Mandarin Lake under Yan'an Mountain. Unexpectedly, almost, she was really killed by Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying. This was going to spread out, so that the Taoists knew that her hot witch was almost killed by 2 ordinary people. How could this save her face? So, now, Ji Mingpeng and the people behind the scenes tried to kill A Yuan's brother for revenge. At the same time, the secret hatred of Zhao Zufen's mother and daughter must also be doubled. Isn't this just right? Did you just clean up Ji Mingpeng and the mother and daughter together? At this time, Tang Tang grinned at the old lady. Old lady, it seems that you like my sister very much. When Mrs. Ji saw Tang Yao's seemingly sweet smile, she always felt something was wrong and panicked. But she still had to maintain her superficial kindness and whispered, "Yes, Yingying is kind and sensible, thoughtful and polite, which I like very much. Mrs. Ji, will you ask my sister to come over? I just miss her too." Tang Tang immediately answered and blinked innocently at Mrs. Ji after saying that. Mrs. Ji, what does this Tang Geoio want to do? She really couldn't figure out Tang Gao's intention, so she could only ask someone to pick up Tang Yingying immediately. After all, as the most tolerant and kind elder, how can she refuse the junior's request? What's more, she really wants to know what kind of medicine is sold in Tang Yao sport. However, a few hours later, when Mrs. Ji was so angry that she almost fainted, she realized that she regretted her decision at this time. Chapter 54 Tang Tang is going to expand the move. Not long after, Tang Yingying came. She really wanted to climb into the Ji family as soon as possible, and was planning every day how to step into the Ji family again. Now she was invited by Mrs. Ji again. She was flattered and surprised and rushed over without stopping. Even if Zhao Zufen, the mainstay, had something to do today and couldn't be with her, she couldn't wait to come by herself. I heard that Zhou Ruli has returned to her mother's house. She has determined to divorce Ji Mingpeng. Then she, isn't she, will soon marry into the Ji family. After all, she and Ji Mingpeng have been talking ambiguously in private. Tang Yingying came over with expectation. As soon as she saw Mrs. Ji, she shouted affectionately, "Old lady, I haven't seen you for a few days, and Yingying misses you." The old lady looked at Tang Yingying kindly. When she just wanted to praise her for a few words, she only heard a very awkward vomit. Suddenly, everyone looked at Tang Tang. Tang Tang shook the orange in his hand and blinked innocently. "I'm sorry, the orange was too sour just now." Vomit. Ji Mingpeng's face suddenly sank, and he immediately said strangely, "I don't know if there is, but he keeps vomiting." Tang Tang tilted her head slightly and said innocently, "It seems that Ji Senai knows the process of girls' pregnancy very well. Do you even know this?" Suddenly, Ji Mingpeng was so angry that he blushed and his neck was thick. Isn't it the connotation that he has an illegitimate child, so he knows the process? Oh, by the way, Tang Tang suddenly realized that Ji Senai had become a father and had a 2-year-old son. Of course, he knew. Tang Tang patted his head and said in annoyance, blame me. Recently, my memory is not very good, and I almost forgot such sensational events. Tang, right. Ji Mingpeng was so angry that he gritted his teeth and patted the table, staring at Tang Tang angrily. He was so stupid that he couldn't think of anything to refute, so he could only follow Mrs. Ji's words to fight back. Can you learn from Sister Yingying how gentle, generous and kind she is? Tang Tang looked at Ji Mingpeng and then at Tang Yingying with a sudden realization. It turns out that Master Ji San likes my sister, Tang. Ji suddenly covered her mouth and sneered. No wonder the old lady likes my sister so much. It turns out that she already likes my sister as her daughter-in-law. Oh, my sister is so shy. Tang Yingying couldn't understand the meaning of Tang Tang's words at all. She only heard that Ji Mingpeng praised her for being gentle, generous and kind. Even the old lady had long wanted her to be her daughter-in-law. Suddenly, Tang Yingying's heart trembled, and her cheeks couldn't help blushing and she aired her eyes. I didn't expect so soon that she could become a Ji family. Tang Tang's words directly made the Ji family can't get off the stage. Mrs. Ji originally intended to attract Zhao Zufen and Tang Yingying to deal with Ji Hengyun and Tang Tang. She even intentionally or unintentionally hinted that she liked Tang Yingying, and it was a blessing for anyone to marry her. If she directly denies Tang Tang now, won't she push Tang Yingying away? Aren't you just hitting yourself in the face? And Ji Mingpeng was even more at a loss. He admitted that during this period, he and Tang Yingying did have private contact, and Tang Yingying, a young girl, loves and worships her so much. He is a man who can't control it, but he just wants to have fun and has no intention of marrying her. After all, he didn't plan to divorce Zhou Ruli. He is not a fool like Ji Hengyun. He finds a small family that doesn't fit in as a marriage partner. ONL, why a powerful family like the Zhou family is worthy of his Ji Mingpeng. He will never divorce easily until he finds the next big family lady who is enough to match him seamlessly. Suddenly, Ji Mingpeng's assistant came in and whispered a few words in his ear. Ji Mingpeng's face suddenly changed, and he immediately said a few words to Mrs. Ji and left in a hurry. Tang Yingying looked at Ji Mingpeng's back reluctantly and bit her lip. If she could go with him, get along with him alone, she believed that with her charm, Ji Mingpeng would definitely fall into her gentle hometown like Jiangmu's and marry her directly into the family. At this moment, Tang Tang suddenly looked at Tang Yingying and said, by the way, sister, I have something to tell you alone. Can you go out with me? Tang Yingying suddenly trembled. Someone gave you a pillow as soon as you yawned. Could it be that God heard what was on her mind and couldn't wait to help her find her happiness as soon as possible? Ji Yingying nodded excitedly and went out directly with Tang Tang. As long as she leaves Mrs. Ji's side first, she will immediately find a chance to get rid of the fool Tang Yao, and then go to Ji Mingpeng Yahoo. As long as she take the opportunity to take down Ji Mingpeng, cook matcha rice with raw rice, plus the tricks her mother taught her. Why worry about Ji Mingpeng not marrying her? The two left the living room and went straight to the yard. Coincidentally, I saw Ji Mingpeng go to a very secluded room alone. Tang Yingying's eyes turned and suddenly moved. She suddenly covered her stomach and looked at Tang Tang. Jiao Gao, I suddenly have a little stomachache. I want to go to the toilet. You can wait for me in the pavilion. Okay. Tang Tang looked surprised and said, do you want me to go with you? No. Tang Yingying immediately explained nervously, I just have a little diarrhea. It's not a big deal, right? Tang Yingying took Tang Tang's hand and said sincerely, wait for me patiently first, and then don't be loud. Okay, after all, I'm really ashamed to say about diarrhea, and I don't want too many people to know. Well, Tang Tang nodded and said with a sympathetic face, well, I'll wait for my sister to come back in the pavilion. You are so kind. Gao, Tang Yingying was suddenly excited. I knew that you were still the good sister who listened to her sister. In fact, he is a stupid fool. This fool is so perfect for her. When she marries into the Ji family, she will definitely thank this fool. The next second, Tang Yingying ran away excitedly. How can the posture of running excitedly look like diarrhea? People who really have diarrhea dare to run like that. Don't be afraid if that thing will it collapse at any time. Without Zhao Zufen, Tang Yingying's combat effectiveness is almost negative. Watching her enter the room, Tang Tang turned around and went to the pavilion. The expression on his face is no longer the stupidity just now. Instead, it is a wanton smile and the confidence that everything is in control. Suddenly, two figures jumped down from the tree. Boss, Diao Diao stroked her purple hair and said proudly, that thing has been put in that room, and the accuracy effect is doubled. Oh, Tang Tang sneered, took out a wet tissue and wiped his hand touched by Tang Yingying in disgust. He opened his lips and sneered. With the two of them, you don't need to do anything. They can create opportunities by themselves and live alone in the same room. XXXX. Ha, the baby looks incredible. The two of them are not divorced yet. Have they just got engaged? Baboon, you are still young, and you don't understand many things. Diao Diao patted the baboon's head in a profound and unpredictable way. Some dog men and women like to damage their own morality and like dirty things. Wait, Diao Diao squinted and said, today, we must lock these two dirty things completely, lest other good girls and men be harmed by them again. It's not just locked. Tang Tang hooked his lips and smiled leisurely. Well, the bigger the fuss, the better. It's better to make the Xi family all angry to death. Chapter 55. Complete their good things. 10 minutes later, there were bursts of harsh screams in a remote courtyard of the Xi family's old house. Zhou Ruxu saw this in the room. The scene made me so shocked that my pupils were as white as copper bells. Brother-in-law, Zhou Ruxu said incredulously. You, how could you? However, Zhou Ruli behind her instantly turned pale, and her pupils and eyes suddenly lost any luster. I shouldn't have come. She shouldn't have had a glimmer of hope. Thinking that he would bow his head and admit his mistake, promise that he would never betray her again, and that he would be loyal to their marriage in the future. I guarantee that his previous love for her was true. But, what about the facts? Doc, you can't change eating shit. If you have an illegitimate child today, you can have an illegitimate daughter tomorrow. It was she who was blind and saw the wrong person. Ji Mingpeng has never loved him at all. People like him don't know love. All this should be over. Seeing her sister's expression, Zhou Ruli slowly realized something and suddenly became angry, especially when I saw that close cover. The body is red. The woman with marks is Tang Yunbing. Zhou Ruxu strode over directly, slapped Tang Yunbing twice, and then pushed her to the ground. Tang Yunbing, you bitch. Are all the women in the Tang family so flirting, attracting men's shameless people? My sister and my brother-in-law haven't divorced yet. Can't you wait to get to the top? When Zhou Ruxu saw Tang Yunbing, she thought of Tang Yaoying. Suddenly, she punched and kicked Tang Yunbing, as if she was going to pour all her anger on Tang Yaoying. Enough. Ji Mingpeng, who gradually came to his senses, was also angry when he saw Zhou Ruxu beating Tang Yunbing like this. Although I didn't know what was going on just now, I unconsciously and Tang Yunbing even felt very happy. Now it's gradually clear. After waking up, I saw the Zhou sisters so well, especially Zhou Ruli, looking at him as if they were looking at a piece of shit. Ji Mingpeng was also unhappy. What's the difference between him? Many women love and worship him, such as Tang Yunbing, just now called. That's called. 1. Does he like her? Zhou Ruli. Over the years, he has coaxed her enough. What's more, she obviously asked him over and said that she would not divorce. What does that disgusted face mean now? Ji Mingpeng was angry and directly pushed Zhou Ruxu away. Zhou Ruxu was pushed to the ground and screamed suddenly. Zhou Ruli suddenly lost control and roared. Beast, you still have humanity. What qualifications do you have to touch my sister? What qualifications do I have? Ji Mingpeng shouted ferociously. Then what right do you have to disturb me? Matter, get out of here. However, the movement here has alarmed a group of Mrs. Ji. When they came in, what they saw was such a funny scene. Ji Mingpeng and Tang Yunbing. No, cover. The body is hiding in the bed. And Tang Yunbing was sobbing pitifully, and the red on her body, he didn't know it was either. The matter was still beaten. Zhou Ruxu fell to the ground, and Zhou Ruli piled beside her to try to help her. Seeing Mrs. Ji coming, Zhou Ruxu seemed to see the main heartbone, so she simply didn't get up and cried repeatedly. Old lady, brother-in-law, this time, really, too much. This Tang Yunbing hook, attracting him, I just wanted to vent my anger, but my brother-in-law actually hit me. Ooh, our Zhou sisters are so pitiful. Ooh, this time, she cried sincerely. It's so pitiful. She likes Ji Henyuan, but Ji Henyuan can only see the bitch Tang Jiu. Her sister's happy marriage was also broken like a bubble. They are really so pitiful. Mrs. Ji understood the whole picture of the matter at a glance. She immediately picked up the vase on the table and smashed it at Ji Mingpeng. Bastard, how can you do such a messy thing? Mrs. Ji is really angry this time. Ji Mingpeng likes to mess around in private. She has always known and has always condoned it. As long as he doesn't make a fuss and give her a few more grandchildren, she will gladly accept it. After all, she worked hard for most of her life to lay such a big foundation for her sons and let their youngest son live as he pleases. What's wrong? It's just that he shouldn't have done it at all. On this day when they came to Ji Henyuan, they did it directly. Tang Yunbing, I was also bumped into by Zhou Ruxu and Zhou Ruli. No matter how she thinks about it, she thinks it's a trap. However, Ji Mingpeng was used to it by her, and he was so stupid that he jumped in directly. Old lady, Tan. Ji Yingding knelt on the bed directly wrapped in the quilt, crying like pear blossoms and rain. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I was careless. Brother Peng, it's because I love Brother Peng so much that I didn't take it for a while. Control. Damn, it's not about Brother Peng affairs. If you want to blame me, blame me. You can beat me and scold me. I'm all with it. I just ask you not to blame Peng brother. Yingding. Ji Mingpeng was suddenly moved and looked at Tang Yingding with emotion. Tang Yingding choked a few times. Her pupils turned red, and she looked at Ji Mingpeng pitifully. Brother Peng, today it's my own. I wish, and you don't have to be responsible for it. It's all my fault. If you want to blame me, you can only blame yourself. I love you so much. As soon as I see you, Yingding, stop talking. Ji Mingpeng suddenly hugged Tang Yingding and said excitedly, don't worry, I will definitely be in charge. I will marry you. Yingding is so kind and loves her so much. He should cherish her. What's more, in fact, it is simply unique beauty, wonderful experience. Suddenly, Zhou Ruxu was so disgusted that she forgot to cry. This is the legendary green tea bitch. Brother-in-law. Zhou Ruxu was so angry that she roared, you don't want my sister for such a small bitch. Ji Mingpeng stared at Zhou Ruxu. What are you talking about? Yingding is the third lady of my lonely family. I can't tolerate you slandering me like this. Zhou Ruxu suddenly felt as sick as eating shit, and she looked at Mrs. Ji as if asking for help. Old lady, However, before she could say anything, she was stopped by Zhou Ruli. Don't talk about Suyer. Zhou Ruli interrupted her and directly forcibly helped her up. She looked at the old lady without being humble or arrogant, and said in a cold tone, excuse me, old lady, thank you for taking care of me over the years. I will send the divorce agreement within 3 days. I also hope you remember to urge Ji Senai to sign. When the sound fell, Zhou Ruli pulled Zhou Ruxu, who was still reluctantly shouting, and left. However, when she saw Tang Tang appearing at the door, Zhou Ruxu couldn't stand it. She directly shook off Zhou Ruli's hand and rushed towards Tang Tang with her teeth and claws. Bitch, you Tang sisters are all bitches. I know how to rob a man. Zhou Ruli rushed to Tang Tang fiercely and was about to throw Tang Tang to the ground. However, Tang Tang suddenly hit sideways. Then, bang, Zhou Ruxu hit the door frame fiercely and was suddenly bounced by the door frame. With a bang, he fell to the ground. No split jet. Fainted. This change suddenly shocked everyone. However, Tang Tang, who was stared at by everyone, blinked innocently. It's none of my business. I didn't touch her. Did she accidentally hit her? Chapter 56. The magic doctor is here, and there is a salvation. Zhou Ruli knew that it was Zhou Ruxu's fault, and she didn't want to stay in this house. She didn't say anything and directly called someone to pull Zhou Ruxu away together. After all, this farce ended with Zhou Ruli's initiative to give in and Tang Yingding's victory. At least on the surface, it does. However, after everyone dispersed, Mrs. Ji directly arranged for Tang Yingding to go to another room to rest, and then slapped Ji Mingpeng. You are confused. Ji Mingpeng covered his face and looked at Mrs. Ji incredulously. Mom, why did you hit me? The old lady's face stared at him with hatred. One is the Zhou family, and the other is the Tang family, a small family. Are you crazy if you want to divorce Zhou Ruli and marry Tang Yingding? Mom, I've really had enough. Ji Mingpeng stubbornly said, is it possible that I can only rely on my wife's family foundation to develop my career? I'm Ji Mingpeng. Now it's not the Zhou family who has made my company so high. It depends on myself. I don't care. I'm going to marry Yingding. It's rare for me to have a girl I like so much. I'm going to order her. The more the old lady and others opposed it, the more rebellious Ji Mingpeng became, and he was more determined to marry Tang Yingding. What's more, although he can't remember what happened just now, and how it happened, however, I always feel an excitement lingering in my heart, thinking of the day in the future. Ji Mingpeng can't wait. In the car, Ji Henyuan took Tang Tang, who had been giggling, into his arms, rubbed her head, and rubbed her waist. The little girl is so soft and fragrant. It's like a sandwich fudge. It made him want to. However, the little girl didn't notice his thoughts at all, and just laughed at himself. I really didn't expect that Ji Mingpeng and Tang Yingding seemed to know my plan and cooperated so much. Tang Tang smiled very proudly. This pair of dogmen and women with ghosts should be locked up directly. Ji Mingpeng is also glad that he has found a good woman. Haha, wait. Tang Yingding's mother and daughter will definitely turn the Ji family upside down. At that time, after the two of them are locked up, We will let go of today's affairs to make sure that the old demon woman will be angry to death. Doesn't she like Tang Yingying? Then send Tang Yingying to be her daughter-in-law to see how much she will like her. Let's see who can fight between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. Looking at Tang Tang's smart little appearance, Ji Henyun couldn't help raising his hand and stroking the corners of her wrist lips. So happy. Tang Tang's eyebrows dance. Of course, if they want your life, they must pay the price. Suddenly, the emotions surged in Ji Henyun's eyes. It turns out that Tang Tang made a fuss for himself. Baby, Ji Henyun looked deeply at Tang Tang, and his voice was very hoarse. I also want to lock you up directly. The sound fell, and the cold abyss suddenly bent down. Hoof, lived in fudge milk flavor. Zhao Yang in the driver's seat quickly raised the baffle and kept meditating. I can't see anything. I can't see anything. At this time, he was extremely regretful. When Diao Diao and Baboon also wanted to squeeze into the car, he should not have stopped them. If you want to have a long needle eye, you should also grow it together. During this period, the gossip after Tang Tang's tea and dinner is to pay attention to the dynamics of the Ji family. Mrs. Ji did not agree to Ji Mingpen's divorce, but Mingpen was determined. The mother and son, who have always had a good relationship, have been so stiff for the first time. Then, Zhao Zufen took Tang Yingying to Ji's house. The reason is, Tang Yingying is pregnant. Now, Ji Mingpen was overjoyed and more determined to marry Tang Yingying. I don't know what Zhao Zufen and Mrs. Ji discussed. Finally, Mrs. Ji also compromised. Of course, the Zhou family and the Ji family divorced because of the division of property, which caused an uproar. In the end, it was Ji Mingpen, the fourth party, who had to cut the meat and shed a large wave of blood, that the Zhou family let go of the divorce. The funniest thing is that when Ji Mingpen went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to divorce Zhou Ruli as he wished, he also took Tang Yingying with him. He couldn't wait to get a divorce certificate with Zhou Ruli, and immediately applied for a marriage certificate with Tang Yingying. The staff of the Civil Affairs Bureau were dumbfounded, and Tang Yingying, after finally got the marriage certificate symbolizing her stepping into the upper class society, was directly like a different person. During this period, as the third lady of the Ji family, she and Zhao Zufen set foot on too many places they wanted to go before but were not qualified to go. High-end clubhouse, high-class banquet, luxury mall. The high-profile action of their mother and daughter is to let everyone know that she, Tang Yingying, is now the third wife of the Silan Qi family. It's an upper-class person. However, just when they were most in high spirit and the young couple were also the most loving, the matter between Ji Mingpen and Tang Yingying, I don't know how it was spread out. Finally, it reached the level of word of mouth. Mrs. Ji, who has always paid attention to her reputation and face, was furious and directly punished Ji Mingpen to kneel in the ancestral hall. Tang Yingying went to beg for mercy, and she also punished her. However, it's okay not to be punished. A punishment. Tang Yingying, unexpectedly, she knelt down and miscarried directly. At the age of 30, it was hard to have a child. Ji Mingpen, and the whole thing exploded directly. All the resentment was spread on Mrs. Ji, the mother and son of the Ji family, who have always been extremely harmonious and united, appeared for the first time, and the irreparable cracks. Villa. Just as Tang Tang and Diao Diao were eating ice cream while happily discussing the needs of the Ji family, Jie Yangwei suddenly came over. So happy. In short, he raised his eyebrows and looked at them. He waved his fan, and the corners of his lips were full of slumps, as if the wanton lonely Angelica in the past came back. Tang Tang nodded, raised her lips and smiled. I'm so happy. Of course, she is happy to be so angry with the old demon woman this time. Jie Yangwei suddenly hooked his lips, with a smile in his eyes, and looked straight at Tang Tang. I can also make you happier. Yinluo, a familiar figure, came in from outside the door. The person who came was wearing a white shirt, suit trousers, and gold-framed glasses on the bridge of his nose, revealing warmth and reserve all over his body. Tang Tang stood up with a moment. In short, are you back? Jie Yan's he smiled slightly, and his tone was soft and warm. Yan Hui issued a 10,000 urgent wanted warrant, forcing me to come back. Tang Tang suddenly looked at lonely Angelica gratefully, and then immediately couldn't wait to take out the pill of Diao Diao and a pile of medical records of Ji Henyun. I just want you to help me see if this medicine can cure my brother Yuan's poison. Jie Yan's he looked at the things stuffed in his hands and smiled helplessly. Gao Gao, I just came back. You are so anxious that you don't even let me drink a cup of tea. Diao Diao immediately said sympathetically. Oh, do you feel my miserable life in ordinary days? People have fallen in love, and they have valued love over friends. Yes, in short, he lowered his eyes and agreed. I don't even love you anymore. Tang Tang knew that he was at a loss, so he immediately had tea for Jianyan's brothers, and shouted out the silence in the study. In short, he is so busy that he must seize the opportunity to treat brother Yuan immediately. However, after Jie Yuan's he treated Ji Henyun and studied Diao Diao's pill all afternoon. Tang Tang was very disappointed. Chapter 57. The silent cold abyss leaked the vest. Jie Yuan's he held the sugar pill in his hand. Even if everyone looked at him anxiously, his face was still as gentle as jade and slow. He slowly raised his eyes and looked at Tang Tang. Sorry, this pill can't cure the disease of the fourth master. What? The most reactive is not Tang Tang, but Diao Diao. Her buttocks were like a fire. She rocked herself to stand up and looked at Jie Yuan's he incredulously. Dr. Jane, are you making a mistake? My pill? But I finally got it from the Dongfang family, a hermit family. How can it be useless? 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion. Her 2.5 billion is gone like this. In the face of the sudden questioning of Diao Diao, Jie Yuan's his face was still gentle and calm as usual. His calm eyes slowly looked at Diao Diao and explained calmly, your pill does have a miraculous effect. It can cure all kinds of diseases. It is a rare and priceless treasure. But, not only can't cure the poison of the fourth master, but even the toxins in his body. If he takes a bite, I will die on the spot. In an instant, Diao Diao's whole body froze. She almost killed the fourth master of silence. Well, earned 2.5 billion and lost 2 billion. In an instant, Diao Diao took a fierce breath. Fortunately, her boss was cautious and didn't listen to her words and gave GCI a mess. Otherwise, she can't afford to pay if she sells her. At the same time, Tang Tang was also stunned. Great disappointment completely enveloped her. She was indeed caught us in doing things, not to mention Ji Henyuan's health. So she didn't let Ji Henyun take the pill as soon as possible. But, she hopes more to tell her in a simple way that this pill can eradicate the poison of the silent cold abyss. Her brother Alun can immediately recover his health after taking this pill. In the future, he doesn't have to take those medicines with great side effects, let alone endure the pain of tearing all over his body when he has poisoned hair, and there will be no risk of leaving her at any time. At this moment, Tang Tang felt that his heart was very stuffy. She frowned and looked at Jie Yuan's he, asking with no intention, is there any other way to cure the poison in his body? Jie Yuan's he shook his head. He didn't have it for the time being, but he could take my medicine first, once every 3 days. And there were no side effects. Even if the frequency of taking medicine is reduced now, there are no side effects. However, Tang Tang is still not happy. She frowned tightly, and her whole body seemed to be covered with a thick layer of haze. Her brother Yuan, why can't he be cured? In short, he was very unhappy to see Tang Tang like this. He frowned and said, have you forgotten that your own body is also? Shut up. Tang Tang interrupted him directly and stared at him. In an instant, Jie Yuan felt that his heart was weak. It hurts so much. She cares so much about Ji Henyuan's health. Why doesn't she care about herself? Obviously, the poison, and in her own body. I haven't solved it all the time. What a silly girl. However, seeing her gloomy look of her frowning, Jie Yuan felt particularly uncomfortable. He doesn't want to see her like this. Suddenly, Jie Yuan compromised and said, I found it a few days ago. An ancient book, which records a lot of detoxification methods. I'll show it to my brother later. Maybe I can find a way. Originally, he went all over the world to find solutions in order to be bright. And that time, he almost lost his life and was shot 3 times before he got the ancient book. It's just that I didn't expect that now. In order to save Ji Henyun, the man who robbed the bride. Oh, in short, he lowered his eyes and laughed at himself. Maybe this is his fate. Who made him? Can't help but love her. However, Tang Tang's eyes lit up immediately. Ancient books. Can you find a way? In short, Tang Tang said excitedly, if it's really possible, the great kindness and virtue you'll never be forgotten. I will definitely thank you very much. Jie Yuan raised his eyes and saw the bright smile on his face blooming again, and he also hooked his lips and smiled. She is happy, and so is he. However, if it had been as usual, she would have thanked him so much. He would have taken the opportunity to joke with her and asked her to make a promise. But now, seeing that Ji Henyun beside her was staring at him, Jie Yuan could only sneer, as if he didn't care. Why? Saving the Li Fei of the fourth master can also be worth 5 billion. Tang Tang joked, it depends on whether I can get the money recently. Jie Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly, thought of something, and then asked, you mean about the cold-faced Shura? Tang Tang nodded, which added up to 3 billion. When I have money, I can share some with you. In short, it's as if you have no money now. Get it? It's still the stingy hot witch. However, Tang Tang and Diao Diao talked about the cold-faced Shura's big order again, but they didn't notice at all that the quiet and cold abyss beside her, at this time, her face was so lost, eccentric. In short, she did not live, but stayed in the bright moon villa. Ten arranged a secluded courtyard for him to study the ancient book alone, so that he could find a way to treat Jiheniyun as soon as possible. And Ten himself suddenly got busy. After finishing his work, Jiheniyun went back to the room and found that Ten was still crackling in the computer without rest. He suddenly frowned. Baby, why haven't you rested yet? It's not good for your eyes to look at the computer so late. But he seemed to forget that he was a real workaholic and just came out of the study after using the computer for a day. Ten didn't look up at Jiheniyun at this time, but still cracked at the computer and frowned. It's really strange. Why can't I find any information about my mortal enemy, cold-faced Shura? Jiheniyun's eyebrows jumped. The mortal enemy? 问号. He paused for a moment and couldn't help asking. Ten, do you have a grudge with him? Why do you say that he is your mortal enemy? Ten shook his head and said very naturally to the computer. I have never had a grudge, but it is said that he is the most powerful killer, but I just don't accept it. Speaking of his professional affairs, Ten's eyes lit up. He looked at the quiet cold abyss, and blinked. On the road, both men and women, I have fought, and no one is my opponent, except for the cold-faced Shura. I was a little crazy during that time, desperately trying to get the first throne on Taoism, so he is looking for traces all over the world. However, I deliberately couldn't find it, but I didn't expect that I accidentally encountered it on a mission. I deliberately fought with him. After a few moves, I found that it was very difficult for me. The cold-faced Shura was indeed very difficult to deal with. If I continued to fight, the task would be finished. So before leaving, I told him to ask him to fight again in Yan'an Mountain next time. As a result, Ten curled his lips in disappointment. That guy didn't believe what he said. I have come to Yan'an Mountain every month, but I have never waited for him. It's because he thinks that he can find a cold-faced Shura when he comes to Yan'an Mountain. What if he has something to delay and comes after a few months? That's why she followed Tang Yundian's mode, our aunt daughter, to Yan'an Mountain. Unexpectedly, she almost died. However, Jiheniyun said coldly, how can it be said that he didn't believe what he said? Has he ever promised to make an appointment? After hearing this, Ten suddenly looked at Jiheniyun. Chapter 58. Two super rich people still pretend to be poor. Ten looked at Jiheniyun suspiciously. How do you know whether he agreed or not? Jiheniyun lowered his eyes slightly and said calmly, I just heard that cold-faced Shura, is strong and has many fans. How can such a person not believe what he says? And you haven't been able to wait for him. So I wonder if he didn't agree to your appointment at all. The sound fell, and the lonely cold abyss looked up at Ten. Ten, think about it carefully. Could it be that he didn't come because he didn't agree? If so, don't wait in vain. Ah, that's what you mean. Ten nodded and frowned to think back slowly. Yes, when you say this, it seems that it's really Dian. Ten patted his head in annoyance and muttered, I was too anxious at that time, so I told him that Yan'an Mountain would leave in a hurry after the reward. But I really didn't hear his answer. But I thought. Ten slightly curled her lips and said, our people on the road are all competitive and win. And I and the cold-faced Shura have always been in a state of doubt. I want to fight with him so much. He should also want to win or lose with me as soon as possible, so as to make a name for himself completely. How can you not come to fight? Alright, baby. Jiheniyun rubbed Ten's head and directly closed her phone. Don't think about it. Go to bed early. No way. Ten pouted stubbornly. Party A has extended it for me once. If I can't get the information of cold-faced Shura this time, I have to double the compensation for Party A. That is, 2 billion. Ten covered his heart, as if his heart was dripping with blood. Looking at Ten's cute and delicate little appearance, thinking of the wonders and twists and turns in it, Jiheniyun smiled helplessly, scratched the tip of Ten's nose, and spoiled him. 2 billion, I'll help you out. Okay. Ten's eyes suddenly lit up. Is your brother's business so profitable? The family is so rich. Seeing that the little financial fan eyes lit up as soon as he mentioned the money, and a pair of crescent eyes were bling, Jiheniyun couldn't help laughing, and Dee couldn't help pinching her soft cheeks. Isn't our hot witch also quite rich? First, he spent 2 billion to buy my life, and now he is willing to spend 2 billion to thank the Jie brothers. Ten pouted slightly and looked at the cold abyss with anger. Stop talking. I regret it when you mention it. 5 billion. I earned it with a hard time. Suddenly, Jiheniyun's face turned black. Little fudge, what do you mean? Jiheniyun directly hugged Ten's waist with his big hand, forcing her to get close to him. His lips almost pressed against her lips. His big hand kneaded her waist wantonly, and asked in a low voice, I don't want to spend 2 billion to buy tens of billions of family property. Ten suddenly tilted his head and smiled. and blinked mischievously at the silent cold abyss. Yes, 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 I just don't want to. It's hard for Ten to make money. Sure enough, Ji Henyuan's face turned darker. Ten sneered and came to his ear, lowered his voice and said mischievous, "Lie, by the way, I forgot to remind you that I'm not a family property of tens of billions, but hundreds of billions." Ten immediately bounced out of the arms of Ji Henyuan in a second and rushed into the bathroom. If you provoke a big tiger, it is a hard truth to run away quickly, and the big tiger's face was already black at this time. Good man, hundreds of billions of family property, spending 1 billion for him still regrets. How dare he be moved at that time? A true feeling, or wrongly high. This naughty milk candy. The next second, Ji Henyuan rushed to the bathroom in anger. He must make her willingly admit that she is willing to spend the 1 billion to him. Give her another 50 billion yuan with a tenfold subsidy. Anyway, his countless family property is all hers. It's just that he wants to be the most special being with her. Even if he spends money and smashes all his family property, he still has to make this little money fan willing to spend money for him. Ten hasn't found out about Lan Mianshura, but he has to go to Deep Blue College. I lost my memory during this period. Oh what? She couldn't find her. So he had looked for Zhao Zufen several times, but Zhao Zufen couldn't wait for her to graduate, and how could she want to help her? However, she never needs their help. After all, she never needs to learn. What dazzling labels have always been added to her. At the beginning, she just casually filled in the archaeology major of Deep Blue College in order to make Zhao Zufen and others believe that she was a stupid ordinary person as always. However, this archaeology major, even she herself feels that everywhere is weird. The next day, Ten took a nap at noon before going to Deep Blue College. Unexpectedly, as soon as I went in, I found that my stupid and ugly photo of black-framed big glasses and high ponytail was enlarged and posted on the publicity column. There are also 4 words written next to it. Wanted notice. Archaeological Hangao. Suddenly, Ten's face turned black. Sure enough, it's what those old people can do. Ten directly unscrewed the glass of the billboard, tore off the ugly photo, and then walked to the Archaeological Academy in anger. Yes, her department is called the Institute of Archaeology. However, there is only one major in archaeology in the Institute of Archaeology. There are few people majoring in archaeology. 大写 N. Not only are there few students, but only single-digit students can be recruited every year, and sometimes there is even no harvest. Moreover, there are few teachers, just 3. They are still very old. It is a well-known existence in the whole Deep Blue College. Of course, it's a bad reputation. Therefore, the Archaeological Institute is becoming more and more unconnected and difficult to maintain. Ten is the only student they have recruited in the past 4 years. After her, no one came to the Archaeological Institute. Of course, before her, there were only 2. Therefore, what kind of shit did she step on when she filled in the volunteer at the beginning? So she happened to fill in the Archaeological Institute. At this time, Ten walked through a camphor forest and came to a secluded courtyard that was almost separated from the whole bustling college. Then, he pushed open the simple red-painted door that was about to fall off at any time. "I'm so fat." She stood at the door, excitedly and shouted. She is the only child of the Archaeological Institute in recent years, and the only little sister of the seniors. Why did she disappear for a while and come back? She should be warmly welcomed by everyone, right? However, 3 minutes passed. Only the crows in the air flew away. Ten's face turned black. She has disappeared for a long time. They can't find her and become her. In the name of unqualified performance, she went to Zhao Zufen and others many times. Andy blatantly posted such ugly photos in the publicity column. Obviously, she worked hard to find her, but now that she is back, why is there no movement at all? No way. Are you still sleeping? She just knew that they like to sleep late, so she had deliberately come back after the nap. The next second, Ten threw a stone at the sky angrily, drove away the crow, and then stepped into the courtyard. Then, she went under a tree and dug out a box. The box was opened, and there were all kinds of strange objects in it. And she chose a fool with a particularly crisp voice. Dong dong, dong dong, bing, dong dong, dong dong, dong dong, dong dong. An extremely rhythmic sound of gongs suddenly resounded throughout the courtyard. It's not over yet. After the opening of the gong, there are also gongs, and erhu, and drums. Take turns, like a chaotic and passionate music concert. 3 minutes after the concert, finally, someone rubbed his eyes and came out of the room. Chapter 59. The secrets covered by the wonderful master group. The person who came out looked about in his 50s, with a white goat's beard on his chin, and his old eyes squinted at Ten, who was working hard. "If you don't come back, forget it. As soon as you come back, it will be a big fuss." you monkey. Seeing the youngest white old man with the whitest hair and beard, Ten suddenly grinned, and then subconsciously muttered, "Who asked me to come back? No one came out to greet me. I had to hold a lively welcome ceremony for myself. Can you arrange the welcome ceremony for yourself?" A boy yawning, wearing an extremely casual and loose cloth coat with messy hair on his head came out like a chicken coop and said with a sleepy face, "Little sister, only you can do this." Ten curled her lips and asked 3 times in her soul, "Second brother, why are you still sleeping? Why are you always so sleepy? Do you know what time it is?" Ten raised his hand to look at his mobile phone and complained in a low voice, "It's 4 o'clock. It's already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun is about to set. You are still sleeping." She was really convinced. How did she enter such a master at the beginning? "I'm not up much at all. Sleep all day. I'm so poor that I feel at ease." It is in stark contrast to her, who only wants to make money, although she also likes to stay in bed. When it's time to make money, she is also desperate. What's more, if you think about it carefully, she likes the bad habit of staying in bed for 20 hours when she is idle. Isn't it learned from this group of unreliable masters and seniors? How dare she come to this archaeological institute for 3 years? She didn't learn anything, so she learned to sleep lazily. In this shabby yard, it was about to leak water when it rained, but they still lay in bed with peace of mind. They haven't recruited students for 3 years, and the poor can't help but lie in bed with peace of mind. The Count brother Qiandou and the old man yawned at the same time. Qiandou grabbed the head of the chicken coop and said lazily and weakly, "I have nothing to eat. I'm so hungry that I have no strength. Why don't you sleep? You can live a few more days after sleeping. Life is important." Old man glanced at Qiandou and suddenly met his eyes. He immediately changed his face and stared at Ten, complaining ruthlessly, "Little Tangren, what did you say when you came back? How many words did I say? I haven't eaten for 3 days, and I've had so much physical strength to make trouble with you. How many days do I have to live? I don't care. You have to compensate me." Qiandou put his hand on his chin and said, "Well, have to be compensated. It has to be compensated." The operation of the 2 people singing in harmony made Ten stunned. "We haven't seen each other for a while. Why has their cheeky skills become deeper again? And haven't eaten for 3 days. Why haven't you starved to death yet? Too poor to afford to eat? Or are you too lazy to go out for a meal?" Ten looked at them speechlessly, and the 2 of them looked straight at her. There is only one word in eyes, that is, hungry. Ten, forget it. When I think that they are at least their masters and brothers, they do give her a lot of convenience at ordinary times. After all, if it is a serious major of a serious college, how can she be like this? She never DS8 class, never need to take the exam. Try, come if you want, go if you want, go, come as you want, come as you like, and come as you are happy. Although the tuition and accommodation fees had to be paid on time, I didn't learn anything, but, at least, it's the most comfortable thing for her, isn't it? Just, even if he knew what they would say and what they would do next. Ten also gave a step and asked in a compromise, "How do you want to pay?" The old man's eyes suddenly lit up, swallowed his saliva, and immediately said clearly and quickly, "I want to eat white chicken, saliva chicken, pepper chicken, crispy chicken, spicy chicken, flour chicken, grilled chicken, steamed chicken, stewed chicken, braised chicken." Stop. Ten really couldn't help it. He directly interrupted the old man and stared at him incredulously. "Old man, are you made by chicken?" Old man stared wide-eyed, no big nor small. "What's the name of the old man?" "Called the master." "Also, Tangren, are you in the water in your brain? I like chicken so much. How can I still make chicken? What, do I eat myself?" Ten. She felt as if she had been completely defeated by the logical and meticulous remarks of the old man. Get it? She admits defeat. Ten had no choice but to take out his mobile phone and order takeaway. "Give them one of our chickens. Let's hold them to death." Today, she also came to report to the passage, and there was less than a year left. She will come again a few times to serve them to eat and drink, and ensure that they will starve to death before they graduate. At that time, it is logical to ask them to issue their own degree certificates and academic certificates. Although she did nothing in the past 3 years at Deep Blue College, she at least paid the tuition and accommodation fees for 4 years. So you have to get those 2 certificates anyway, which is not a waste of her money and chicken, is it? As soon as the chicken arrived, the other 2 old men, who were still immersed in deep sleep, Mr. Xiao and Mr. Zheng, also jumped up from the bed with a card. "It's like you can smell the fragrance in your sleep. Know that the food is coming." and then you wake up in a dying dream, and then, 3 old men and 1 elder brother, 1 chicken in a minute, 2 chickens, 3 chickens. It looks like they haven't eaten for 3 days and 3 nights. Suddenly, 10 couldn't bear it. If I graduate and leave, these 3 lonely old people and this unreliable lazy brother who can't take care of his own food and clothing, how will they live? Can't you really starve to death? 10 thought for a time and asked in a roundabout way, well, old man, I heard that I have another big brother, right? But why hasn't he appeared all the time? Why don't you call him back to take care of you? Hearing 10's big brother, the half black and half white old man shall touched the oil on his mouth, ate a chicken thigh fiercely, and hummed twice. That bastard won't care about our lives. 10 blinked. Why? The oldest but well-maintained dark light suddenly flashed in the bottom of the deep eyes of the youngest old man Zheng. But on the surface, he continued to pull the chicken leg carelessly and said slowly, he is chased every day. He is not in good health and will burp at any time. How can he have spare time to take care of us? 10 suddenly choked. Sure enough, she shouldn't have hope. There'll be no normal people in this master's family. However, suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and a strange idea suddenly emerged in 10's brain. She was hunted down again, and she was in poor health and would die at any time. Why? So similar to her brother Alun. 10 suddenly shook his head fiercely, trying to shake off the extremely incredible idea in his mind. Brother Yuan, it's impossible to have anything to do with this wonderful master. I'd rather believe that he is a cold-faced ass. Hura then would never believe that he is my eldest brother. 10 muttered to himself alone, thinking that only he could hear it clearly. After all, the 4 people were grumbling and focusing on cooking. But unexpectedly, her little murmur made the 4 people stop the movement of their hands at the same time, and then, at the same time, they looked at her. 10 looked confused and pointed to herself. What's the matter? Old man Zheng licked the chicken residue on his lips. Why? Oh, just said. Cold-faced Shura. 10 was surprised. My voice is so small. Did you hear it too? Or, 10 suddenly thought of something and asked boldly, is it possible that you know him? The moment the sound fell, the 4 people immediately bowed their heads to Cook, chirping, tearing and pulling. No one seems to care about 10. Sugar. At this time, 10 really doesn't feel right. She thought she was a master who was not amative and only knew how to make a day. But there was a big brother who had been chased and killed. Being hunted down can also indirectly explain a possibility, that is, the identity of the eldest brother, which is not necessarily very bad. At the same time, when she mentioned the cold-faced Shura, they all reacted, not to mention that his voice was so small that they could still hear it. It shows that they obviously know these things on the top. Their hearing, also it has a sharpness that is not suitable for ordinary people. So, is it difficult for these people? What's the big secret? Suddenly, the simple and dilapidated gate of the Archaeological Institute suddenly sounded a knock on the door. Chapter 60. 10 abused the scum and was signed up for a boxing match. Girl, how do I feel that you are black again? Old man Bai glanced at 10 and said heartlessly. 10 asked back, I've been in for so long, and you just found out now. Old man Bai said confidently, isn't he too hungry before? I don't have the strength to pay attention to you. 10. It turns out that this also requires physical strength. However, this indirectly shows that the 4 masters and apprentices who have now finished 10 chickens have almost recovered part of their physical strength. They have already paid attention to her. It seems that if they eat another 20 chickens, they can live a few more days. However, 10 subconsciously looked at his hands that were a little too black and couldn't help eyeing. She used to be dressed in such an inconspicuous outfit, with black framed glasses, a high ponytail, and deliberately smeared her skin. She dressed herself up as the kind of ordinary type that others wouldn't look at on the road. But, today, even she herself feels that she is a little too ugly. Ugly it seems that she is walking on the road, but others will look at her a few more times. This is completely different from her original intention. Of course, among them, Ji Henyun is indispensable. When she told Ji Henyun that she wanted to come to the college alone, Ji Henyun didn't say anything, but went directly into the cloakroom, and then brought her a set of clothes. It can be said that, extremely ugly, purple exaggerated patterned t-shirt with dark red casual pants, red with purple, shit. At first glance, it's a strange style. If she doesn't wear it, he won't let her go out alone. Moreover, when he saw her smear his skin, he directly snatched the job. The skin, face, neck, hands, behind her ears, and even her ankles were about to be exposed all over her body. It's blacker than hers before, and it's several degrees darker. The most terrible thing is that Ji Henyun also set a time for her to go home. If she hadn't returned to the villa before dark, he would have been determined not to let her out alone in the future. Ten was very speechless about the series of operations of Ji Henyun. This dogman was afraid that she would be kidnapped by others. Right. Did he forget her skills? However, Ten is also used to pretending to be ugly and coming to college. There is enough time before dark, so he agreed to the unreasonable request of the dogman. Of course, Ten, who was extremely vengeful, immediately decided that when Ji Henyun also needed to go out alone next time, she would do the same to him and double the return. She has been optimistic on the road. A leopard print shirt, a big gold chain, black leather pants, pointed shoes, and a gold encrusted watch. A set of neat work for Ji Henyun. Come on, who is afraid of whom? However, just then, their simple and dilapidated door was suddenly knocked violently. Hearing the extremely violent knock on the door, Ten frowned subconsciously. Usually, ghosts don't come to this remote place. How can someone knock on the door? Looking at the 4 people in front of him who were still addicted to eating chicken without a reaction, Ten knew that they were unreliable and had to open the door by themselves. However, as soon as the door opened, the other party shouted violently. It took so long to open it. Are you disabled and can't walk? Seeing the fierce boy in front of him with his hair dyed yellow, Ten subconsciously pushed the black-framed glasses on the bridge of his nose, and his mouth was the essence of nationalism. You talk so bad. Are you born with a bad mouth or do you have to spit shit out of your mouth because your anus is bad? As soon as Ten said this, the 4 people who were addicted to eating chicken, you look at me, I look at you, all stopped eating chicken in their hands and looked at Ten. Old man glared at Ten. Little Tangren, didn't you see that we were still eating? Why are you talking about these disgusting things? Ten hooked his lips, put his hands around his chest, and said as he wanted, disgusting things have come to your door. What can I do? Yo, you. The yellow-haired man at the door blushed with anger. Growing up so big, it was the first time for him to be so strange. Unexpectedly, he said he sprayed shit and said he was disgusting. This group of garbage archaeological institutes that have lowered the overall level of Deep Blue College is just a group of waste who can't do anything. How do they deserve it? And what qualifications do they have to say this? The boy directly blushed and roared excitedly. Do you think I'm willing to come to your damn place? It's just that the opening ceremony of the boxing competition has already begun. 2 people have signed up for your college, but they haven't been drawing lots. Now everyone in the college is waiting for you in the big hall. The dean asked me to come over and tell you that I will give you 10 minutes at the end. If Tang Peogeo and Qiandou of your college are not available, your registration qualifications will be cancelled directly. After the boy finished the catharsis, he still felt that his upset had not been relieved. He looked at Ten contemptuously and sneered. However, you ugly and useless scumbags will be eliminated in the first game, and you will be beaten to the point of blue nose and face. Whether to go or not, it's the same. Hiss. Ten put his hand on his chin and looked at the excited boy in front of him in a funny way. Are you done? Do you think we will be eliminated in the first game? Then if. She deliberately lengthened the ending, PAU, said for 2 seconds, and said slowly, not only did I not be eliminated in the first game, but I also won the championship. Damn it. The boy was even more excited and felt that the black woman in front of him was simply provoking and insulting him. He was about to be so angry that he couldn't curse directly. If you are not eliminated in the first game, I will write Huang Dapen's name backwards in the future. If you can still win the championship, I will go to you in front of the whole court and admit your mistake. As if he was afraid that he would repent, Ten immediately said, okay, deal. She hooked her lips and smiled, looking at Huang Dapen inexplicably. Hong Da Huang, don't regret it. Then, slap and close the door. The moment he turned around, his little face suddenly became cold. Who specially signed me? This kind of boxing match between colleges is like a primary school student fighting for her. How could she sign up? It's noisy. She was really afraid that she couldn't counter all the power, so she directly punched the future flower bone of the motherland into a broken flower. Whoops. The old man nibbled the chicken leg happily, burped, touched the oily white beard, and said slowly, we are not. There is nothing we can do. Sugar, what do you mean? Old man smiled innocently. As you know, little Tang people, many of your masters are poor and often can't afford to eat. But this boxing match, the champion has tens of thousands of prizes. It's enough for you, master. We've been eating for a year, so, hehehe, white, old, head. Ten gritted his teeth. And you sold me just because of tens of thousands of yuan. Aren't you afraid that my slender arms and legs will be beaten by others? Mr. Zheng glanced at Ten indifferently. Didn't you just say that you could win the championship? Ten did. After all, she cheated herself again. However, Isn't it just a punch? Just think of it as going to play. Ten Ten looked up at the sky. It was late in summer, and he should be able to rush back before dark. Just go and draw the lottery immediately. So, she directly lifted the collar of her second brother with one hand. Still it. Don't leave yet. It's the same Cheyenne who was cheated. If there is a pit, we must roll together. Hyanda was still holding chicken wings in his hand. Before he could wipe the oil on his face, he was dragged to the venue by Ten Ten. He muttered while being dragged on the road. Little sister, don't worry, my brother has just been full. He can't run like this. It's hard to digest. If you spit it out, it will be a waste. Ten Ten, 问号. He continued to complain. Besides, no one informed us to draw lots today. Is it our fault for being late? Just let them wait. The old dean doesn't dare to really cancel our registration qualification. Ten Ten, I don't know where your confidence comes from. The two of them must be scolded to death by other departments now. Right. Ten Ten guessed right. At this time, a group of people waited impatiently in the venue had been complaining about them. They even raised a card to protest and asked the dean to disqualify them directly. However, they don't know at all. The archaeology department, who is now despised by them, was almost squeezed out of the boxing team by them. Next, what kind of bloody storm will be set off? It will also add a supreme glory to the Deep Blue College, which has always been at the bottom, to go down in history.